and to see a great percentage of our troops home by the end of next year. If you didn't see your email here, you can go to my blog, cnn.com/Cafferty File. Look for yours there. We post hundreds of them every hour. Wolf?
All right, Jack, thank you. Happening now, the first polls closing in just under 1 hour. Our exit poll results, though, they're coming in right now. Stand by. We're about to share some numbers with you. A long, emotional, and historic presidential campaign nears its end at the ballot box. But for either Barack Obama or John McCain, this day marks a new beginning. Americans turning out in what may be record numbers. There are long lines, mechanical breakdowns, and in a rainy Virginia, even some damp paper ballots. We're tracking all these voter problems. You're reporting them to us as well. And what it means for you, we've got Election Day covered from coast to coast with several special reports and expert analysis. And I'll also speak this hour with former New York City Mayor and former presidential candidate Rudy Giuliani. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world. I'm Wolf Blitzer at the CNN Election Center. You're in the Situation Room. It's Election Day in America, and in just an hour, the first polls will be closing in this 2008 presidential election, even as we get the first clues to the outcome of this historic race here in the United States. The candidates casting their votes early before heading out for a final flurry of campaigning and then settling in to await America's decision. From red states to blue states and all those important battleground states, CNN has mobilized its resources across the country. We're waiting for the first exit poll numbers to come in, but let's go to Jessica Yellen right now. She's in Chicago. She's watching what's going on. There's going to be a huge gathering at Grant Park where you are in Chicago tonight. Set the scene, Jessica, for us.
Right now, 65,000 to the general public opened. There'll be 7,500 members all around the world. Beyond me in this grassy area, MPs, family of Barack Obama, friends, staffers will gather. Of course, we'll be on this stage up here. And Barack Obama's light schedule today betrayed a measure of confidence. No crisscrossing the nation to shore up support in must-win states. Instead, he began the day close to home, making voting a family affair.
I voted.
He later told reporters,
Voting with my daughters, that was a big deal. I noticed Michelle took a long time, though. I had to check to see who she was voting for.
Obama then headed for a quick trip across the border to neighboring red state Indiana, which has voted Republican every year since 1968.
I think we can win Indiana. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in Indiana.
Obama aides say more than 1 million volunteers are reaching voters today, calling, knocking, driving them to the polls. In Indianapolis, Obama helped out.
I would love to have your Thank you so much.
Aides tell us they are nervously optimistic. They think high turnout helps them, and they're proud so many states are competitive.
We have got a lot of states in play for us. Virginia, Indiana, North Carolina, Florida, early in the evening. A lot of states that Democrats traditionally don't compete in, we think we've got a shot to win. But we've got a lot of different ways to get to 270 electoral votes.
But many aides were too jittery to spend the day at campaign headquarters, so they headed into the field to get out the vote. They say that's all they have left to do. Well, already started gathering outside. Anywhere from people could crowd the street getting access.
All right, we're getting the first exit poll numbers coming into the Situation Room right now. Let's go to voter analysis here at the CNN Election Center. Soledad O'Brien and Bill Schneider are standing by. Soledad, what's coming up?
Well, this, Wolf, is the voter analysis board, and the exit poll data comes directly into here, into the CNN computers, real-time, raw data, all sorted, constantly updated. So, as you said, the first information coming in. Bill Schneider, what are you seeing?
What are we seeing? What was the top issue on the voters' minds across the whole country? And here is the answer. The economy clearly dominated this election. 62% of voters said that was the issue on their minds. Iraq, which a year ago you would have thought was going to dominate this election, just like the 2006 midterm, only 10% said Iraq was their top concern. Terrorism and health care, about the same as Iraq, 9%, 9%. the rule in politics? When the economy is bad, the economy is the issue. And look at this. The economy is really the issue.
So the economy is bad. That's a takeaway. Now, give us a quick 101 on how the exit polling is going to work tonight.
We have voters all over the country who are interviewing people as they leave the polling place. You have to interview them after they vote. And they're handed a questionnaire. Now, the voters are selected at random. They have to take every fifth or sixth voter. No discretion. And they're handed a questionnaire that looks just like this. In fact, this is it. This is a questionnaire. There are several different versions, but it's a form. And they privately look at the form, answer the questions front and back. It's covered with all kinds of questions like, how did you just vote? Would you describe yourself as a born-again or evangelical Christian? Issue questions, explaining their vote. They fill it out. Their name is nowhere on this form. They hand it back. The answers are called in and tabulated in our computer.
What do they do for the folks who did early voting or for the folks who live in the state of Oregon where everybody does mail-in voting?
Well, you can't do an exit poll with those people because they're not exiting any polling place. Those people are telephoned over the weekend just before Election Day. They are asked the same set of questions as if they were voting at a polling place, but it's done by telephone, landline, or cell phone. We reach them.
Historically, how accurate are these polls?
How accurate? Usually they're fairly accurate, especially in terms of the motivation of the voters. Sometimes they're, within a couple of points of the actual final vote.
So we're going to have, Wolf, real-time, raw data, all sorted by computer. We'll be able to dig down very deeply. We're going to really be the place for the why. Why did someone win? Why did someone lose? Why is it close? We can answer that question for you right here tonight. Wolf?
All right, guys, we're going to be checking back with you very, very soon. Thank you. All right, I want to show you some pictures right now. These are long lines. This is coming in from our affiliate in Orlando, Florida, the affiliate WKMG. There are we're told there are 3-hour long lines voting at the University of Central Florida in Orlando right now. We're watching these pictures. We're getting incredibly huge numbers of people are showing up, and as a result, many of these polling stations are not ready for them. They have these long, long lines, but people are waiting patiently, getting ready to vote. We'll continue to watch all of this. Let's go over to Dana Bash right now. She's in Phoenix. That's where John McCain voted today. Set the scene this hour, Dana. What is the candidate, his family, what are they doing?
They're doing something that is quite unusual for John McCain on Election Day, and that is they're actually still campaigning, Wolf. He is actually in some of the neighboring states to Arizona, southwest states of Colorado and New Mexico, and there's a very simple reason for that, because those two states plus Nevada, those are 3 critical states in this area where he is really trailing in the polls. And I just talked to one of McCain's senior advisors who was very candid, who said, look, we have to win one of these states, all of which went for George Bush in 2004 if we want to win. So McCain was in Grand Junction, Colorado earlier today, and he was pleading with his supporters to keep working.
With your help, we're going to take America in a new direction. Get out there and vote. I need your help. Volunteer, knock on doors, get your neighbors to the polls, drag them there if you need to. We're going to bring real change to Washington, and we have to fight for it.
And that obviously is really the name of the game today, Wolf. It is getting out that vote. The ground game is what is the most critical right now. And McCain aides tell us that they have been doing heavy-duty calling and door knocking. 3 million on Saturday, about the same on Sunday. Yesterday, a top advisor told me they actually reached about 4 million people, either by door or by phone. But they also fully admit, Wolf, that they are outspent and they are outnumbered by the Obama campaign on this issue, on the issue of the ground game. Not something that Republicans are used to with regard to this get out the vote operation, but they know that it's going to be very tough on all fronts, particularly on getting out their vote today, Wolf.
And in Senator McCain's speech earlier today, you noticed something unusual, didn't you, Dana?
That's right. Actually, today and also in the wee hours of last night in Prescott, Arizona, he stopped talking about Barack Obama. You know, yesterday we heard him all day at stop after stop actually for the past several days, slamming Obama on issue after issue on the economy, on national security. He simply right now is talking about himself, why he should be president. A really different tone from John McCain, and actually quite an emotional one, Wolf. He actually was certainly trying to be the gritty warrior, but several times that gave way to real emotion, and his voice started to crack, not just because it's hoarse, but because it was emotional.
All right, people
Wolf.
are starting to get sentimental right now all over the country, too. Dana,
Absolutely.
thank you for that. Let's go back to Jack. He's got the Cafferty file.
Touched by Donna Brazil's thoughts on what this meant to her a little earlier, and a lot of people feel that way.
I've been getting a lot of emails as a result.
Record turnout expected. Voters are lining up in all kinds of weather to pick a president, 35 senators, 435 congressmen, and 11 governors. For some, voting meant waiting in long lines, sometimes in cold, wet weather. Damp ballots actually to blame for delays in a handful of spots in Virginia and North Carolina. For others, voting meant delays dealing with polls that didn't open on time. What, this day sneak up on those districts? Or broken or malfunctioning voter machines. 3 precincts in Kansas City got the wrong registration books. New ones had to be printed up. That held up things there. Some people got their votes in early, though. 30 states allow early voting, casting ballots through the mail or at polling places that open up ahead of Election Day. 1/3 of all voters estimated took advantage of that. But that process wasn't seamless either. At least 2 presidential elections, the last 2, shrouded in controversy. In 2000, the Supreme Court, in effect, appointed our president after an agonizing weeks-long wait down there in Florida. In 2004, strong suspicions that some voting machines had been tampered with, and that affected the outcome of that election. And there are a lot of us that don't trust that these election results tonight are going to be legitimate either. A lot of suspicions surrounding what is arguably a very badly broken system. The question this hour is this: how would you change the way we elect our presidents? Go to CNN.com/Cafferty file and post a comment on my blog. It is ridiculous. The fractured differences that exist state to state, all of the requirements.
Different rules all over the country.
It's nonsense, you know. It needs to be standardized and cleaned up. And we say that every 4 years.
And then they forget about it.
And then we have this discussion the next time.
Right. Yeah. Get ready for the same discussion in 2012.
That's right.
All right, Jack. Thank you. Sarah Palin anticipating victory.
Tomorrow, I hope, I pray, I believe that I'll be able to wake up as Vice President-elect and be able to get to work in a transition mode with the President-elect, John McCain.
She went home to Alaska to vote, and we're going there live to hear what she's saying about history being made. Also, thousands of voting problems across the country. We've been reporting on them. We go to one state where voting problems include some bad machines and even some soggy ballots. And the states and the counties to keep your eye on as we start getting voting results right at the top of the hour. John King is standing by with the Magic Map. We got breaking news here in our political ticker. Let's go right back to Soledad O'Brien and Bill Schneider there at Voter Analysis here at the CNN Election Center. More numbers are coming in, what voters are thinking and feeling, Soledad.
Yeah, exactly. All the information coming from our exit poll data that we're getting. This is the Voter Analysis Board. We're able to get in real time all the information. So we got some new numbers. Bill, let's talk about some of those key issues.
Okay. Well, let's look at the Iraq issue. I'm going to use this device, which is known as a magic finger, and we're going to go right to the key issues. And Iraq was the second most important issue. Only 10% said Iraq was the reason why they voted today, why they chose their candidate, 10% nationally. But when I touch Iraq, here it is in all the states we have so far.
So explain this funnel shape to me. What are we looking at here?
Okay, this funnel shape, like a stack of drawers here, tells us they're all blue. You notice that. What that means is in each of these states, this is how voters who were concerned about the war in Iraq voted, and blue means in all of those states they voted for Barack Obama, but in 2 states down at the bottom, the people concerned with Iraq voted for John McCain. Now, we can open these drawers. Let's look at this gold bar, which is the United States as a whole. How did people who were concerned about the war in Iraq vote in the country as a whole? The answer is 63% for Obama, 36% for McCain. We now know concern about the Iraq war helped Obama, gave him a big margin over McCain, and in some states that margin was even bigger. Let us see Rhode Island. 70% of Iraq voters voted for Barack Obama. But in a couple of these states like Kentucky, the voters concerned with Iraq gave the edge to John McCain, 53-44.
Right, so we continue to update the information as we get it in real time here. And of course, as you pointed out, what a difference a year makes. Iraq was polling first just a year ago. Wolf, back to you.
All right, Soledad and Bill, thank you. The Republican vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin returned to Alaska, to her town of Wasilla, to cast her ballot today. Let's go to Alaska. Gary Tuckman is on the scene for us in Anchorage right now. How did it go, Gary?
Well, Wolf, while most of the United States is having a warmer than normal election day, it's actually colder than normal here in Alaska. So it was 9 degrees when Sarah Palin arrived about 4:45 a.m. local time after a flight from Nevada, where she had a rally last night. She was with her husband, Todd, and they came here solely to vote. And like most intrepid Alaskans, she was actually holding a heavier coat. It's amazing how people dress here in the cold weather. They don't dress nearly as warm as people like us do. But anyway, they got into a car, and then they had an hour drive to Wasilla. That's where she grew up. That's where she was mayor. That's where she planned to vote. They got there so early the polls weren't open yet, so they had some coffee. She then went into the polling place, went behind a curtain, and we presume, a safe presumption, that she voted for the McCain-Palin ticket. Now, Sarah Palin said to reporters she hopes, prays, and believes she will win, but she also left open the possibility that she won't.
I do recognize that this is an historical event, no matter which ticket, of course, prevails. And there, too, it bodes so well for the progress that our great country is making, and barriers, of course, being removed, and glass ceilings being shattered, again, as the representation on both tickets will show.
It was a 4-hour stay in snowy Alaska. They then went back to the airport, boarded the plane, and they're now heading to Phoenix to join John McCain. Ironically, they flew out of the Ted Stevens International Airport in Anchorage. Ted Stevens is the senior U.S. Senator from Alaska, has been there 40 years, also running for re-election today after being found guilty of 7 felony counts last week. Sarah Palin and John McCain both said they wouldn't support him. Sarah Palin was asked today if she voted for Ted Stevens. She said, quote, "I don't have to tell anyone who I voted for." Wolf?
Thanks very much. He's fighting for his political life, Ted Stevens, in his Senate battle tonight as well. Barack Obama's running mate, Senator Joe Biden, voted in his hometown of Wilmington, Delaware, along with his wife and 90-year-old mom. Biden then made a final campaign stop in the crucial battleground state of Virginia, but says he won't give any predictions.
I think it's just so presumptuous as a candidate, you know, to even let yourself think that you know what the voters are going to do. I know that sounds stupid, but I really mean it. If you notice, you know, all the things you hear me say, you've never heard me say, I believe the American people think, or I never presume to think for, you know, for the voters.
Senator Biden then flew on to Chicago to watch the election results later tonight with Barack Obama. Former President Bill Clinton waited in line with his wife, Senator Hillary Clinton, to vote in Chappaqua, New York. Afterward, President Clinton talked about what it was like to walk into the booth and not see his wife's name on the ballot.
It was a little bittersweet, but I'll always look back on this with great pride, what she did and how she did it. And I think the American people saw both in the campaign and in what she did for Senator Obama, which was unprecedented in the annals of modern American politics, what kind of person she is. And so I feel great about it.
Senator Clinton was looking ahead.
I think that the country will be well served. I'm not painting any rosy scenarios. It's going to be very difficult to dig ourselves out of the ditch that the Republicans are going to leave us in, but we'll do it, and I'm very confident about that.
All right, we're getting more exit poll numbers coming in. They're coming in, and Bill Schneider and Soledad O'Brien, they're crunching the numbers for us. You're going to see them right here. Stand by. And we'll also get the first official voting returns in less than 40 minutes from now. We should start projecting states once all the polls in a state are closed. That's coming up as well. Stay with us. Lots more coming up right here in The Situation Room. America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York, he's here with us in the Situation Room. We're going to talk with him shortly, but I want to go out to Richmond, Virginia right now. Dan Lothian is our man on the scene. Dan, I understand there have been some problems out in Virginia, a key battleground state.
That's right, a key battleground Brown State, and we did have some problems here, in part because of the weather. We had rain early part of the day, continues to rain now in the evening. And what happens was people were going into some of these polling places to use these optical scan machines. They had wet gear on, umbrellas, water was getting onto the paper ballots. They were finally able to fix that situation. In addition, here in Richmond, there was one polling place where 5 of the 7 voting machines were broken. They had to shift over to paper ballots. They were eventually able to bring in some additional machines. And I can confirm as well that 1,000 people were in line in Chesapeake, Virginia. We were told that they were simply overwhelmed. They had to bring in additional people to help out there. But overall, officials are saying that they don't have any major problems here in the state. Now, right now where I am, no long lines behind me. But earlier today, we did have long lines. And we had a chance to talk to some of the folks who said they're just happy and proud to be taking part in this historic election. Wolf?
Dan Lothian, thanks very much. We'll check back with you. It truly is an historic election day here in the United States. And the former Republican presidential candidate, Rudy Giuliani, is here to talk about it. He's a major supporter of John McCain, as you know. We'll also get to our political contributors, James Carville and Bill Bennett. They're standing by live as well. We'll hear what they think. The best political team on television and more right here in The Situation. Let's go right back to voter analysis here at the CNN Election Center. Soledad O'Brien and Bill Schneider are going through more exit poll results. So what's coming in, Soledad?
We've got some new exit poll data for you to share at the Voter Analysis Board. The issue of terrorism has always been in the top 5 as long as this race has been going on. So, Bill Schneider, we got some new information about the terror issue.
That's right. This was Rudy Giuliani's issue, but it wasn't a big issue to voters. Let's take a look. Across the country, only 9% of voters told us terrorism was the main issue in their minds. How did they vote? Look at this. Each of these states is red, which means McCain led Obama in each of these states among voters who said terrorism was their top concern. Let's look at the country as a whole. Among those voters who said their vote was driven by concern over terrorism, McCain got 86% of the vote. Pennsylvania was a state, no, it's not up here. Oh, there it is. Pennsylvania. Good. Your finger. There it goes. Nope. Pennsylvania was a state that suffered from the terrorist attacks of 9/11. Those concerned about terrorism voted 88% for McCain. The top issue in 2004, but times change.
Will these numbers change?
Yes, they will. During the course of the evening, we're constantly updating this information with new interviews with new voters. A lot of people are still voting.
Early in the night. Polls haven't even closed in many places, obviously. Right. So we got a long way to go. All right, Bill, thanks.
Exactly.
Back to you.
All right, guys, thanks very much. And joining us now is the former mayor of New York, the former Republican presidential candidate, Rudy Giuliani. Terrorism, a huge issue. I think we can all agree. Thank God it isn't seen as a huge issue right now.
A year and a half ago, key issue. It reminds me of the wisdom that David Garth once taught me when I was running for mayor. Yeah, he said elections are won by the question people are asking when they go into the election booth.
The fact that people are not concerned about terrorism indicates, there hasn't been a major terrorist attack.
If people were walking into the polling booth thinking terrorism, probably no way that Barack Obama has a chance of winning. McCain wins. It changed the question, the prevailing question.
Barack Obama as so much better on the economy than John McCain.
I think it's generic, Democrat, Republican. I think that there's just almost the same reason why terrorism comes out dramatically, or national security the other way. It's just a historical
But Republicans
issue.
have always been so good, Ronald Reagan and others, in saying the Democrats are big spending, tax increases.
This is probably also the net effect of being in power for all those years, Republican Congresses. Probably the same reason we lost in 2006. Republican Party lost some of its credibility on the economy.
Because spending exploded over the 8 years of the Bush administration.
When you think economy, you think Republican, you think low taxes, low spending.
Some smaller government.
But
the era of big government is here.
We got the low taxes, but we got the big government. And
huge government right now, a lot bigger than it was 8 years ago. The national debt has doubled over these past 8 years.
Lost our part of our brand.
Was that environment, if in fact Obama goes on to win, it's still a huge if. We don't know who's going to win right now, but if he goes on to win, what will be the what will you look back at and say was the changing moment?
If we're going to reestablish the base of the Republican Party, the real base of the Republican Party has to be based on smaller government, less spending, getting control over spending. Doesn't mean no spending. It means disciplined spending. I mean, I throughout have thought that the president right now should be talking about a 5–10% spending decrease in Washington. Just impose it. Mike Bloomberg is doing it in New York to get ready for the deficit that he sees coming.
It's going to be a big deficit here in New York, too. He's got a lot of problems.
Right.
Whoever is elected president tonight is going to have to unite this country and bring this country together. How divided? You've traveled all over. You've campaigned for
right now,
John McCain. How divided is the country right now? So it's an enormous challenge to either Senator McCain or Senator Obama.
These are patriotic people. They love their country more than they love their party. Sometime tonight, after one side or the other is very angry, right? They're going to realize this is about having a president.
But it's doable to bring this country together.
Sure.
Give me some advice quickly, a piece of advice to both of these men, what they need to do to try to unite the country.
I mean, I won in a Democratic city twice. You know, I knew that I won, but 5 to 1. People were of the other political party. First thing you do is talk to them, and you tell them it's all over. It's not. There's no Republican way or Democratic way to govern the country or govern the city. It's just one way to do it. And now I work for all of you. So that's all they really have to do. And the American people love that. I mean, we know how to get over these things. Some of the people in Washington don't know how to get over it. But the people in America know how to get over it.
Do you have any interest in serving once again in public service if McCain wins or if Obama wins? And they said, you know what, you'd be a pretty good attorney general.
I am real happy where I am. I'm not looking for a job. I wasn't doing this, John, because I was looking for a job.
But it's hard to say no to a president.
It's almost impossible to say no to a president. But I did what I did for the last couple of months because, I mean, I don't mind saying I really love this man. I think John McCain is, I mean, you remember, I think it was your debate where I said I wasn't running, I'd be supporting John McCain.
That was my debate.
And a couple of my colleagues got angry at me. You support him for, why not me? Yeah. Because I really believe in him. He did something in his life that I'm not sure.
Well, no matter what happened, he was very fortunate to have you as a supporter.
We were very fortunate to have him as a candidate. Hope we have him as a president.
Thanks for coming in. It's Election Day America, and our CNN political contributors, James Carville and Bill Bett, they're standing by live. We're going to talk to them about what's going on. First, Jeannie Mo says another most unusual look at candidate vote.
Think you're alone on your condo balcony, and then someone points to spying press. It's the ballot secret. And finger licking good. But the media took a licking, running this way, running that way. Running for the windows, trying to get shots of Senator McCain voting.
We need you back, sir. We need you back, guys. Sir, we need you back. God bless you guys.
And God bless the wife who knows when not to get out of the candidate's hair. Jeannie Mo, CNN, New York.
In San Antonio, an election judge helps a partially paralyzed woman vote in the back of an ambulance. Let's go right back to Ali Velshi. He's watching what's going on. Some voting problems. Our voter hotline phone is sort of ringing off the hook, isn't it, Ali?
As we expected, Wolf, what's happened is people have left work and they are lining up to cast their ballots. We're getting a lot of calls. In fact, the increase in calls now with poll access problems is growing. We have been getting a few calls now from Norfolk, Virginia, Norfolk County, where we are hearing about lines in some precincts in excess of 5 hours, 5 to 7 hours. I just got off the phone with somebody who said that they waited 5+ hours. They saw a lot of people leaving. I got to tell you again what Donna Brazil said. Please, if you're in line, do what you got to do to stick around. Bring a book, bring a friend. If you are in line before the polls close, you will get to vote in every precinct around the country. They'll block off behind you, and then you'll get to vote. So far, as I said, we've had 3,000 calls come in the last hour. Please call us if we have problems, because we can get onto those. The number is 1-877-GO-CNN-08. We'll get onto those problems, and we'll track them down and see if we can solve them for you, Wolf.
Thanks very much, Ali. We'll continue to watch this story. All right, let's go right back to voter analysis right now at the CNN Election Center. Soledad O'Brien and Bill Schneider. They're going through more exit poll numbers. What are we picking up, Soledad?
All right, well, right to the analysis board. We'll take a look at how new voters are voting. We could also break it down state to state, break it down by demographics as well. Let's do both right now for new voters, Bill.
Let's take a look. That's a demographic group, new voters. Here are all the groups we can look at the vote by. New voters right down here at the bottom, people who have never voted before. Every one of those shelves is blue. That means new voters gave the edge to Barack Obama in each one of these states, including this gold bar, this gold shelf. Let's open the shelf. That's the United States as a whole. This says first-time voters voted 72% for Barack Obama. And in all the other states on this list, including Georgia, Louisiana, California, new voters went for Obama.
Lots of states missing, lots of information still to get. The polls are open. People are still voting, obviously.
Right.
All right, Bill, thank you. Wolf, back to you.
Soledad and Bill, thank you. We're going to come back to you as more numbers come in. Let's discuss what's going on with our political contributors, the Democratic strategist James Carville and Bill Bennett, the host of the national radio talk show Morning in America. Guys, thanks very much. These new voters, overwhelmingly, not a surprise, voting for Barack Obama. But is it a surprise?
No, it's not a surprise. And as you know, October the 7th round is set. I think this race has been over for a long time, and I'm glad. Yeah, a long time. We'll see. But yes, I'm not. But it's not. But it's not surprising that they had a very aggressive. That campaign did a magnificent job. Was very aggressive, getting people out, getting them registered. So I'm not surprised at this number at all. That 72% is high.
Is that a surprise to you?
No, I think they did a lot of great grassroots work, and the kind of idealism to which they appealed. McCain appeals to a certain kind of idealism too. But the kind of idealism to which the Obama campaign appealed is ready set for young people. It fits with what they learn in the schools.
And you saw the exit poll numbers that, in terms of the most important issues, by far it was the economy. Way, way, way down. The war in Iraq, the war on terrorism, and everything else. And Rudy Giuliani just said, you know what? Democrats are perceived as better on the economy right now than Republicans.
Well, yeah, because mainly the Republicans have been in charge, and the end party gets blamed for the economy. We generally do a little bit do better on the economy, but you know, right now we're in pretty serious recession right now. It's not surprising that you would see these numbers. In fact, you would expect them, and it's what's causing the Republicans. It's going to cause them a ton of grief tonight. I mean, a lot.
Yeah, I guess one surprise maybe is McCain might, you know, given the enormous challenge he faced because of the economy, he's doing you know, better than perhaps some other Republicans might have done.
Given the headwinds, I think he's doing very well. I'm holding up for 273 for McCain, by the way.
You're still predicting?
Yes, I am. But look at the glass
half. The magic number being 270.
Look at the glass half full for the whole country. Those terrorism numbers are low. The war in Iraq numbers are low. Part of that is success. I mean, we have not been attacked. The main job, according to the Federalist Papers, of the Commander-in-Chief is the security of the citizens. Can we give a little credit there? Little thanks. It's off the table.
So you want to give credit what you're saying to
the President of the United States,
Bush and Vice President Cheney,
and
neither of whom has been very evident, visible during the course of this campaign.
The rules have to apply. If you're responsible for the economy, which, you know, obviously in some ways you are, but in many, many ways you're not, how about the defense of the country, for which you are actually responsible?
But it's true. I think it's fair to say that 80 or 90% of the country thinks that the country is moving in the wrong direction.
Yes.
Right now.
Again, these were very, very, very tough headwinds. There's no doubt about it that Senator McCain was sailing into. And it's, you know, it's going to be overcome, and this is going to be a big night. A really big
and when
night.
Look at these pictures. You're looking at these live pictures. Those are aerial shots coming in from Grant Park in Chicago, where hundreds of thousands of folks are expected to show up. They're not yet there, but they're expected to show up. Bill, they're either going to be really, really happy or really, really sad. We don't know what the outcome is going to be. Take a look at this live picture. This is coming in from the Biltmore Hotel in Phoenix, where John McCain's going to have his rally tonight, his event, after we know who wins and who loses.
Well, that's not a bad place to be, no matter what happens.
Yeah,
we've all been at Grant Park, because someone else will have to speak to it. But listen, if he gets 273, McCain, I'm up all night. I'll go right to the radio show from here.
Yeah, I will say this. Grant Park is a great urban area. What they've done at Lakefront Chicago is magnificent. But the Biltmore is out, obviously, first-class hotel. We've stayed there many times. But I think there are going to be 1 million people there, which is going to be pretty remarkable.
It's a great night for democracy. It's a great night.
No matter what happens.
That's right.
And if Obama is elected.
Yes, sir.
Because you're an historian and you've written brilliant books about American history, several volumes. How significant, from your perspective, would it be that an African-American will be the president of the United States?
Well, it's hugely significant, and I hope closes a chapter in American history. The Great Stain, obviously, you don't change American history. But the notion that some people say, well, if you're born black in this country, you know, there's just things you're limited from doing. This is the biggest job of all.
It's quite a powerful
It's a tremendous
statement if in fact that happens.
Think of what you can say to children now, every child of every race.
And you're a son of the South.
I grew up in the segregated South. All right, say I'm 64 years old. Let's be very candid. When I started college, there were no African Americans at LSU. And this, I'll be honest with you, I never thought this would happen in my lifetime. I cannot imagine the emotion on African Americans, particularly those that are my age that grew up in the segregated South. And I think this is a I think this is going to happen. I think this is, in many ways, a wonderful thing for this country. And I thought that, like yesterday when Senator Obama's grandmother died, I thought you were very good on that, Ms. Secretary. And I think this tells a lot of children in this country who are being raised by grandmothers that, you know what, you can achieve a lot. I think there's a message in Senator Obama's grandmother's death. I mean, in everything we look for something. I think that was a real message to kids out there, and you were very good on that, sir.
Don't go away, guys. Don't go away, guys, because we're gonna spend the next few hours together talking about what's going on. We got a lot of news. We're waiting for the first polls to close. They're about to close at the top of the hour. What, in about 14 minutes or so from now. John King is standing by. He's going to show us what to look for on our magic map in some of the key battleground states. During the course of these final days of the campaign, you've heard a lot about these so-called robocalls, these phone calls, these automatic phone calls that are going out. There's a new one that's coming out today warning people about Barack Obama. This put out by the RNC in Florida especially. Cuban Americans are attracted to this one. Listen to this. It's going to be in Spanish, but the English translation will be on the screen.
Urgente, estoy llamando de parte de John McCain para decirles que hoy a las 1:28 de la tarde, la independiente agencia de noticias Reuters reportó que el dictador cubano Fidel Castro le ha dado su apoyo al demócrata Barack Obama por ser más inteligente y más culto que John McCain. Igual que Hugo Chávez, Daniel Ortega y Evo Morales, los hermanos Castro prefieren a Barack Obama. No le den a Castro lo que él quiere. Vayan a votar ahora mismo por John McCain y eviten que se establezcan en Estados Unidos políticas como las de Cuba. Quedan unas pocas horas hoy para votar por John McCain. Esta llamada ha sido pagada por McCain Palin 2008 866-558-2875.
All right, that was, as you just heard, if you speak Spanish, that wasn't an RNC robocall. That was a McCain Palin robocall. Let's go to our man in Florida right now, John Zarrella. John, it's a little late, isn't it, to start these? That's a pretty powerful robocall, if I say so myself.
Yeah, no question about it, Wolf. And that call just started going out within the last hour or so to Cuban-American enclaves in Miami and around Florida. And what that tells you is, you know, Cuban-American voters staunchly anti-Castro, staunchly conservative, have backed the Republican Party religiously for many, many, many years now. But there have been signs of cracks lately, particularly with many of them saying they might think about voting Democratic this time around. Clearly, John McCain needs every one of those Cuban-American voters he can get to get out to the polls at the 11th hour here, to get as many of those voters as he can. So that's what we're looking at right now, a last-minute call to get them to the polls.
All right, John, thanks very much. John Zarrella working the story in Florida. John King is here at the Magic Map. John, walk us through what our viewers should be looking for, because in a few moments, the first polls will be closing in 2 states.
Wolf, and we're going to try to use our map to give some ideas of places we'll be watching very closely. We showed a few in the last hour. I want to show you 2 in this hour, and I want to start in North Carolina. This is a state President Bush carried quite handily 4 years ago, but as you well know, it is in play this time. The key for Republicans here, and certainly the key to President Bush in North Carolina and elsewhere, was the support of evangelical voters. We've not talked as much about them in this election cycle because of all the focus on African Americans and Latinos, but the evangelical vote would be critical to the Republicans. We visited a big evangelical church down here. Pastor Loran Livingston tells us that he has many congregants who come to him and say they like Obama on the economy, they like McCain on the social issues. What should they do? The pastor says he doesn't tell them to pick a specific candidate, but he says listen to the Bible.
You can't start weighing an economic situation versus a spiritual or an eternal situation. Economics change, but how God feels about life and marriage never changes. So I tell them, find the candidate whose philosophy lines up most with Scripture, pray a lot, and vote your heart.
So evangelical turnout in North Carolina and many other states, Wolf, is one thing we'll be watching tonight. Another thing we'll be watching is the impact of race in this race for president. Barack Obama obviously trying to make history as the first African-American candidate. You remember the congressman from this state, Pennsylvania, Jack Murtha, his district is out here. He said he thought many people in his district would vote against Obama because he is black. Well, in its canvassing in the final days, this is in the Philadelphia area, but it's going on across the state. The Obama campaign has targeted white working-class neighborhoods, trying to convince people, vote the economy, don't vote any past prejudice prejudices. We talked to the veteran Democratic pollster Peter Hart about this. He said 6 months ago it was a big issue, but he said Barack Obama's performances in the presidential debates, in his view, has greatly reduced the risk of people voting against Obama simply because of the color of his skin.
Fascinating. I think voters have moved to a comfort level, and a lot of people who didn't think that they could vote for an African-American candidate are looking at the economic situation and are looking for help and hope. And they look to Barack Obama and say, that's a potentiality. This is the future. I can't vote to reinforce the past. So I think many of the racial problems that were there have diminished. It hasn't disappeared, but it's diminished.
The impact of race on the election, another thing we will look at, Wolf, in the key battleground states, including Pennsylvania. We visited 31 states over the past few years, and going to watch many of them tonight as we watch the results come in.
It's getting exciting out there. All right, thanks very much, John. Just ahead, we're going to go back live to the candidates, the presidential candidates, Barack Obama in Chicago, John McCain in Phoenix. We're awaiting the first poll closings in just a few moments. And in our political ticker, Jeannie Most has a most unusual look at the candidates voting.
Joe Biden arrived holding his mom's hand, then voted behind blue curtains, while Sarah Palin voted behind red, white, and blue curtains. Biden exited and kissed his wife, while Palin exited to snow and the sight of her own breath in 18-degree Wasilla, Alaska, saying she prays and believes
I'll be able to wake up as vice president-elect.
She got lots of warm, furry hugs.
Forever, I'm going to be Sarah from Alaska.
Even Santa was there. Talk about a red state. Jeannie Most, CNN, New York.
Check back with Jack Cafferty for the Cafferty File. Jack.
The question this hour is, how would you change the way we elect our president?
Oh, Jack, your microphone is turned off, so maybe you should turn it back on.
Well, I will.
Okay.
My apologies.
Okay, is it turned on now? Can you hear him now?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
The question is, how should we change the way we elect our presidents? There are many things, this is Sarah writing this, many things need fixing: campaign financing, the useless debates, the length of the campaign, the day we vote, the electoral college, the list goes on and on. The most important thing to fix is the shambles at the actual polling stations. Every other major democracy in the world has a uniform system for voting and the capacity to get the voters through the polls. Why the hell can't we? Susan in Illinois, voting ought to be on the weekend using an electronic scan for quick counting and a paper receipt for the recounts. Matt in Illinois, shorten the campaign period. Federally finance the campaign with private or corporate contributions so that everybody has the same war chest, and have real debates about the issues rather than fluffy platitudes. Holly writes, I can bank online, I can day trade online, file my taxes online, shop online, all securely. But people have to go and wait hours in line to cast a ballot in a federal election. Give me a break. If we can't even get our act together and set up a secure and functional voting method 4 years after the last election fiasco, I have no faith we're going to be able to turn the economy around. Jim, in my hometown of Reno, what bothers me most about our elections? Negative campaigning, the lies, distortions, and just plain filth. I honestly don't know how to purge our elections of this muck and keep the political discourse on a high and dignified plane, but that's no more recounts. If you didn't see your email here, you can go to my blog, cnn.com/Cafferty File. Look for yours there among hundreds of others. Dueling. It's a concept.
Yeah, not a good one. All right, Jack, thanks very much. Happening now, we're set for the first vote results in this 2008 presidential election. We're watching for returns coming in from key states. Also, hanging in the balance right now as Americans cast their ballots, several House, Senate, and governor races. Democrats could significantly increase their grip on Capitol Hill. And scores of voters are enduring long lines, even problems at the polls. You're going to see what's happening, and you're going to find out what you can do about that. All that, plus the best political team on television. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world. I'm Wolf Blitzer at the CNN Election Center. You're in the Situation Room. It's 6 p.m. and the polls have just closed in parts of Indiana and Kentucky. Most of the polls in those two states, in fact. Not all the polls are closed in those states. They will be at the top of the next hour. Two big tests we're watching right now. Can Barack Obama pick up Indiana, which typically votes Republican, and in Kentucky, can the Republican minority leader in the U.S. Senate Senator Mitch McConnell hold on to his seat. Moments from now, we'll be getting the first real votes coming in this historic election. And you can keep an eye on the bottom of your screen where the results will be streaming in. Stand by for that. Meanwhile, there's breaking news. Let's go back to voter analysis right now. Soledad O'Brien and Bill Schneider, they're standing by. And they're getting new numbers on these exit polls that are coming in. Soledad?
That's right, Wolf. Right to the voter analysis board and some of these new numbers for exit polling coming in. One thing that's not going to change are some of the issues, and the big issue, which is the economy. How does it look?
How does it look? Let's take a look at where it is now. Still, the economy is the #1 issue. 2004, it was terrorism. 2006, it was Iraq. This year, the economy.
Let's dig a little bit deeper. Break it down for me. How do people feel about the economy now? What do they say when they're polled?
Stinks. How about that? 93% say the economy is not so good or poor. Very negative assessment.
They also ask the question about the future. Are you optimistic looking forward? What do they say?
They're pretty optimistic. 47% think the economy is going to get better. That's twice as many who think it's going to get worse. So the economy may be terrible, but people are optimistic.
Interesting to see over the last couple of weeks, both candidates have been talking about the other guy raising your taxes. And that was a question in the exit poll.
We asked people, do you think Obama will raise your taxes? Do you think John McCain will raise your taxes? And look at this. 61% say McCain will raise their taxes. 70% say Obama will raise their taxes. About taxes, they are pessimistic. About the economy, they think it'll get better. Taxes, they're not very hopeful.
And we want to keep reiterating, Wolf, that these numbers are going to change. What will not change is the economy as a top issue.
I don't think so.
All right, Wolf, back to you.
Thanks very much, Soledad and Bill. The first polls are already closed in some counties of Indiana and Kentucky. The rest of the polls in those states, as well as all the polls in the key state of Virginia and other eastern states, will be closed in less than an hour, 7 p.m. Eastern. Then by 7:30 p.m. Eastern, polls will be closing in Ohio, North Carolina, and West Virginia. And just a half hour later, 8 p.m. on the East Coast, polls in Florida and Pennsylvania and 13 other states will close. At 9 p.m. Eastern, it's Colorado and 14 other states, then Nevada and a handful of others at 10 p.m. Eastern. It won't be until 1 a.m. Here on the East Coast that the last polls will close. That will be in Alaska. And we'll be tracking every minute, every development. And at the end of it all, voters will have chosen a new president and a new Congress. Today, neither presidential candidate took anything for granted. Barack Obama cast his vote, then quickly rushed back to the campaign trail. Our senior political correspondent, Candy Crowley, is in Chicago watching this. Might be Election Day, but they're still trying to make sure that they get out that last vote.
This was a campaign, Wolf, that was absolutely determined to move forward, to never let up. He said it in his speeches all the time. They were out on the ground in all of these counties with so many turn out the vote offices, that they really felt that they could not let any of this go until this final day. So you saw Barack Obama. He went over to Indiana, a state that he thinks he has a possibility of winning, which would be pretty historic if he won that red state, which has been red since 1964. So he did go over there. He made some symbolic calls to voters saying, if you haven't made up your mind, please vote for me. This is also the time, Wolf, when these candidates begin to sort of have mixed feelings, because they are at the end of something and the beginning maybe of something else. So Barack Obama was asked whether he was feeling just a little bit nostalgic.
Voting with my daughters, that was a big deal. I noticed Michelle took a long time, though. I had to check to see who she was voting for.
All right, unfortunately, I think we've lost Candy. Her audio, I think, has gone away, but we'll fix that and get back to Candy Crowley in a few moments. She's in Chicago. That's where Barack Obama's getting ready for his event later tonight. He's watching the poll results coming in Chicago. Let's go out to Phoenix right now. Dana Bash is with the McCain campaign. They're going to be watching the results where you are. I take it they're getting ready for a big bash out there, right, Dana?
They're certainly getting ready for a big event here. It's really unclear, obviously, what kind of event it's going to be. And in terms of the mood, I just ran into one of John McCain's senior advisors coming out here who used the word stoic to describe the atmosphere inside the McCain campaign. I've actually been talking to advisors for the past couple of hours who say that they are determined to remain optimistic, but they certainly are realistic as well, Wolf. They are continuing to say, probably even more and more, saying that they understand how tough an environment this is for any Republican. Now, as for McCain, he was out campaigning all day today, and he is more and more trying to say, look, defy the pundits, defy the polls, and his standard stump lines are getting more emotional and more sentimental.
I've been fighting for this country since I was 17 years old, and it's been the honor of my life, and I've never lived a day, in good times or bad, that I didn't thank God for the privilege of serving the United States of America. I owe this country more than it will ever owe me. And I promise you, if I'm elected president, I will never let you down.
Now, that was McCain speaking earlier today in Grand Junction, Colorado. That is a place in Colorado, Wolf, that has not gone for a Democrat since 1964. That is sort of indicative of the kind of uphill climb that they realize they have inside the McCain campaign. You know, usually John McCain has sort of standard situation on election days is to vote and then take in a movie and kind of take it all in on election day. You know, not today. He was not only in Colorado, but also in the state of New Mexico, talking to volunteers, giving them a pep talk. Again, it sort of shows you the kind of mood that they're trying to display on the outside, that he is somebody who is ever the gritty warrior and not going to give up. Inside there, again, a little bit more realistic, Wolf.
Dana Bash in Phoenix, so we're going to be getting back to you shortly as well. Thank you. All right, CNN is the only network to have established a voter hotline to report problems at the polls, and there's new information coming in right now. Allie has been fielding a lot of those calls. What are you hearing, Allie?
A lot of calls, Wolf. We've taken 25,000 today since the polls have opened. We're charting them along with InfoVoter Technologies to see what the concerns are. By a long shot, voter registration issues are the biggest issues. These are people whose names are not on registration rolls. The second one are the second biggest issue, mechanical problems, polling machines not working. And the third one is poll access, long lines, and that's where we want to take you right now. We've got a call. We've had several calls, but I want to play one for you from Marie Murphy in Norfolk, Virginia. Let's listen to her.
Calling about the long lines and not enough voter booths. We only had about 7 or 10, and the wait has been about anywhere from 4 to 7 hours.
We've heard that from a few people. Lineups in excess of 5 hours. Now, part of the issue here, Wolf, is that there are a lot of counties, a lot of precincts that are basing the staffing in these precincts on the previous election, not on polling, not on the idea that there'll be greater voter turnout, and as a result, they're just not staffed. We have not had any complaints from Norfolk that there are problems, technical problems. It is simply that the lineups are too long and that some people are turning away rather than getting their vote. We want to remind people, if you have problems, we are prepared to look into them. We're equipped to look into them. Call us at 877-GO-CNN-08. We will take a look at what the problems are, and we're determining trends across the country. We're seeing the biggest problem in states where we've had major registration drives and huge voter turnout, Wolf.
Allie, thanks. Stand by. This is important information. And we're mapping all the calls coming into the voter hotline here at CNN to try to get an idea of where the most severe problem areas might be. Let's go back to our chief national correspondent, John King. What are we seeing, John?
Wolf, let me show you how it works and our viewers how it works. This is a shell of the United States. White because we're waiting for results in the presidential race to come in. But we also have programmed our hotline into it. And the brighter the orange you see, the higher the intensity of the calls and complaints. Allie just mentioned a phone call from down in Norfolk, Virginia. That is right down here in this area, and you can see a number of calls down there, 47 here, 188 out here. That's medium intensity based on population, how we gauge it right there. We'll pull back out to a national look. You see higher intensity, a lot of phone calls up here in northeastern, the Scranton area of Pennsylvania, also down here in the Philadelphia area. We're tracking those as well. Another place, of course, we'll keep an eye on Ohio. A lot of battle between both parties there, accusing the other of shenanigans at the polls and the like, and a lot of long lines. You see a lot of calls up in Cleveland, decent amount of calls in Columbus, down in Cincinnati as well, the major major population centers. So throughout the night, Wolf, we have our national map. You see some intensity down in Florida. If you see a brighter orange, that means we're getting a high volume of calls. A lighter orange is a moderate number of calls. In these white areas of the country, not so many calls. We'll keep an eye on it all night.
We're watching it. John, thank you. A reminder, if you see any voting irregularities or have any problems casting your vote, you can call this number, 1-877-GO-CNN08. That's 1-877-462-6608. You can also follow the reports we're getting in real time by logging on to CNN.com/hotline. The first exit polls, the first polls, that is, have now closed in 2 states. We're waiting for the first results to start coming in from Indiana and Kentucky. Stand by. In fact, Kentucky numbers are coming in right now. Stay with us for that. The White House isn't the only landmark up for grabs tonight. As you know, there may be a lot of turnover in Congress. We're watching what's happening there. John King will be back to take a look at the balance of power in our new virtual Capitol. And CNN is in every one of those crucial battleground states. We'll have reports, live reports from Pennsylvania, Virginia, Missouri, and more. Lots of news happening right here in the Situation Room. In our political ticker right now, it's not, of course, just the White House that's up for grabs. It's both the Senate and the House of Representatives. The balance of power at stake right now in this historic election. Campbell Brown is here. John King is here. Campbell, this is a new technology we're about to unveil to our viewers. Set the scene for us, you and John.
Well, as you said, I mean, this is going to be a huge night in both the House and the Senate. A challenging night would probably be a nice way of putting it, John, for Republicans in the House and the Senate, where they're expected to lose seats in both places. But set the stage for us before we get into the nitty-gritty about where things stand right now and what it looks like.
Well, I'll show you the numbers first. If you just look at the numbers up here on the screen, the Democrats have a majority in the House, 236 to 199, and they have a majority in the Senate. This shows the race is up right now, but it's 51-49. I'm going to try this for the first time on live television there and give you the Capitol.
Roll, please.
And there you go. If you can see this at home, we can't even see it right here. The virtual Capitol is now before you. And what we want to show you tonight is the races for the United States Senate. We'll start with this. And we begin the night, I'm going to go back to the lineup coming into the night. 51-49 is where we start the night. Now, there are 35 Senate races tonight. So we'll hit live results, and you see those races flash up in the middle. And most parties believe of the 35 up tonight, Democrats are defending 12. The Republicans defending 23. That's a hard challenge for the Republicans. Most believe that number of seats are relatively safe. You see the blue filling in the middle, the red filling in the middle. Those are seats we believe are safe. So you get to some pretty big races, Campbell, early on in the night in the state of Virginia. You see the candidates there on your screen. Mark Warner, the former Democratic governor, on the right of your screen. Jim Gilmore, the former Republican governor. 2 heavyweight candidates. But Democrats expect that they will win this race and win it quite handily. So I'm going to hypothetically assign it. And you see how the numbers change on our map. 51 there. Another pickup the Democrats expect is out here in the Southwest in Colorado. We'll see the results come in, but so you get familiar with the technology, let's assign that one to the Democrats for the sake of argument. Again, you see the numbers going up. Democrats expect another Udall to win in New Mexico. We'll watch that one go up. And a big race early on will be this. Oh, that one doesn't want to work, so we'll send that one back. We're frozen up at the moment here, but Campbell, as we go on throughout the night, we'll have any number of races that we can bring up. We'll work out the kinks in the technology. For Democrats, of course, the goal is the magic number of 60, which would give them a big enough majority to block a filibuster in most cases. We'll see if that plays out. Most Republicans think the Democrats will win 7 or 8. Will they get to the magic number 9? That's a big issue. A race to watch out there, of course, way out in the West, Alaska. Ted Stevens just convicted of corruption charges. Right. Can he hold on? And we'll watch the House balance as well, because whoever is the next president will have to deal with the Congress. And if Barack Obama wins, how much in control of the Congress will his party be? And if John McCain wins, how much of a Democratic majority will you be fighting in the Congress?
And John, quickly, without getting into specific House races, in last election, Democrats picked up 30 seats in the House. I've heard predictions range from 20 to as much as 30 again in the House this round. So this could be a real game changer.
And it depends highly on the turnout today. Younger voters, do they just vote for Barack Obama, or do they stay engaged and vote Democrat for Congress? African-American turnout, do they just come out in high numbers and vote for Barack Obama, or do they go Democrat all down the line? Most Republicans think they will lose 25 at a minimum in the House. Campbell, they think it could go to 30, even 35. 2025 if there are big Obama coattails and Obama has a good night. Conversely, the same thing. They think if Republican turnout is surprisingly high, maybe they can keep it to 24 in the House. It's hard to say that that's their optimistic goal, but most Republicans think if they only lost 24, 25, they would call that a good night, given how tough this year is.
All right, John, a lot to keep an eye on tonight, and some of the stuff we'll be learning fairly early in the evening when polls close in some of these East Coast states, Virginia, North Carolina. A lot more with John later. Wolf, back to you.
All right, guys, thanks very much. I want to check in. First of all, some poll results are coming in. Indiana, most of the counties are closed there. We have no results yet in from Indiana. You can see 0%, 0%, but we should be getting some results coming in from Indiana very soon. All of the polls in Indiana won't close until 7 p.m. Eastern. That's at the top of the hour. Remember, 11 electoral votes in Indiana, which is turning out to be a key battleground state. Kentucky, not so much a key battleground state. Right now, only a few polls results are in. Less than 1% of the precincts have reported in Kentucky. McCain had 59% to 40%. These numbers are just coming in right now. They're going to be changing dramatically. We have correspondents in all the key battleground states, and I want to go briefly and check in to see what's going on. We'll start off with Brian Todd over here. Brian, you're in Philadelphia. What's the latest in Philadelphia?
A lot of energy and excitement here, Wolf. We just found out that they may not be expecting a record turnout in Pennsylvania, about maybe 80% at most, but that will not exceed the record, we're just told. At this voting station, a very smooth operation. People getting processed in as we speak. This poll closes in a little over an hour and a half. People are coming in and out. There were long lines here earlier today, snaking around the street. In Pennsylvania, the only reports of irregularities, some people showing up at the polls thinking that they're registered and finding out they are not. They're given provisional ballots. We're told that is not a widespread problem. Also, in this precinct and in others, some voting machines malfunctioned. In the cases where they did, they used paper ballots, and everybody got a chance to vote. But overall, a very smooth operation here. Very, very high turnout. We're going to know in a couple of hours how the campaigns did. They really blitzed this state. We're going to know in a couple of hours, Wolf.
We'll check back with you, Brian. Let's go to Dan Lothian. He's in Richmond, Virginia, where we knew there were some problems during the course of this day. Dan, tell us what happened.
Well, what we had is that in one precinct here in Richmond, we had a particular polling place where 5 out of the 7 voting machines broke down. They had to turn over to paper ballots, and they were finally able to bring in some additional machines. Also, in the Chesapeake, Virginia area, we had about 1,000 people. We confirmed that about 1,000 people were in a line there. They were simply overwhelmed. They had to bring in additional personnel to help out. We're told that situation was rectified. But in general, officials telling us that really they prepared well for this, and they did not get all those problems that a lot of people had feared. Polls closed in about 40 minutes, and we're told that if there are long lines like we saw earlier today, anyone who is in line by 7 p.m. will get to vote. Wolf?
We'll watch in Virginia with you. Ed Lavandera, we're just outside St. Louis, Missouri. Is that right? Ed, is that where you are?
Right, we're in the suburb of Webster Groves, an interesting area to be tonight. As the polling location that we're at, you can see it's starting to trickle down now. The amount of people that have been coming through here, there's about an hour and 45 minutes left in voting. The polls close here at 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. Central Time. At this particular location, they're approaching 80% turnout, which is a little bit more than what they're expecting for the state across the state of Missouri. They're expecting about a 76% turnout. Everything we've heard so far is that is still on track to be the case for today. But in the north part of St. Louis County, we are hearing major reports of long lines in various places, kind of a wide range of reasons for why that is happening. But from what we've heard, we had a producer on the ground at one of those locations, and they were reporting that people seem to be in good spirits and willing to wait out the lines this evening. But these ballots, not just the presidential election, but there's a lot of local issues on these ballots. So many officials are telling us that it's taking people a long time just to get through all of the different measures and all of the different choices they have to make on these ballots. Wolf?
Well, we have to be patient on this day if they want to vote in so many parts of the country. Ed, thanks very much. I want to remind our viewers also to keep an eye on the bottom of the screen. You'll see the numbers coming in. As we get them, you will see them throughout the next several hours. And in Kentucky and Indiana, where a lot of the polls are closed right now, you'll see those numbers coming in rather quickly over the next hour. All the polls in those 2 states will be closed at the top of the hour. We're moving into this final phase. Polls in parts of 2 states, as I said, are already closed. We're waiting for the returns, more returns from Indiana and Kentucky. Here's a question. Why are some people voting the way they do, the way they vote? We're taking a closer look at the issues that mattered most in the voting booth and tracking real-time results. How you can keep up with numbers at CNN.com. This is information you need to know right here in The Situation Room. Happening now, the counting has begun. Polls are now closed in parts of Indiana and Kentucky. Half an hour or so to go as the polls close in some key states. The returns could forecast what kind of night this will be. In fact, let's take a look at what we have. Already some numbers coming in from Indiana where a lot of the precincts are closed. About 1% of the precincts have reported so far. Obama ahead 56% to 43%. He's up by about 2,000 votes. In Kentucky, less than 1% of the precincts are closed. McCain maintaining a pretty impressive lead, 62%, 36%. But remember, this is very, very early in the game. But those numbers are going to be coming in relatively quickly pretty soon. Certainly what's uppermost in the voters' minds as they cast ballots, that's a question we're trying to assess. We're going to go to voter analysis to interpret the numbers that are coming in. All of this, plus the best political team on television. I'm Wolf Blitzer. You're in The Situation Room. In the early exit polling, voters are giving us a pretty good clue what to watch for tonight. Let's go straight to voter analysis. Our senior political analyst Bill Schneider and Soledad O'Brien standing by. Soledad?
All right, let's take you right to the voter analysis board. We wanted to take a closer look at some of the demographics, and one that interested both of us was the higher income voters. So what did they do? How did they vote?
These are voters whose taxes could go up. This is our list of all the demographic groups we have in the electorate, and our higher income voters are those with incomes of $100,000 or more. That's a quarter of the voters.
Now, let me stop you here, because this is sort of a double funnel. What are we looking at exactly?
Very pretty, isn't it?
It is, actually.
Well, about half the states are red. What does that mean? That means that in those states, higher income voters with $100,000 or more income voted for John McCain. The wider the bar, the bigger the vote, the bigger McCain's margin. The blue states are states where these same higher income voters, not the same voters, but voters with higher income, voted for Obama. So immediately you can see that their vote was sometimes for McCain and sometimes for Obama. This gold bar is the United States as a whole, and if we open the drawer, what we see is in the country as a whole, voters who make $100,000 or more voted for Barack Obama by a small margin. They gave him the edge 52 to 47 over John McCain.
Or to clarify, who we spoke to in our exit polling.
These are voters that we haven't spoken to so far in our exit polling, despite their concern about taxes.
Let's dig down a little bit deeper into some of the key states. So Ohio, for example, where that tax issue was a big deal, and both candidates had been campaigning heavily on that. And also Colorado is another good place.
Okay, Ohio is a key battleground. Let's open the drawer and see what's in it. In Ohio, higher income voters voted for John McCain. So the tax issue in Ohio appears to have gotten McCain some traction. The other state you mentioned was
Colorado.
Colorado. There you go. In Colorado, the tax issue worked for Obama, not for McCain. Higher income voters weren't put off, apparently, by his pledge to raise taxes, not of voters over 100,000. He said he would raise taxes only of voters who make more than 250,000. So apparently that didn't faze those voters too much. The voters over 100,000, they voted almost, 11 points margin for Barack Obama.
All right. Thank you very much, Bill. And Wolf, we'll send it right back to you.
All right, Soledad and Bill, thanks very much. Let's get some analysis of what's going on. And we got the best political team on television standing by right now and throughout this night. Gloria, let me start with you. These early exit poll numbers we're seeing, by far the economy, the most important issue affecting voters on this day, which doesn't necessarily bode well for John McCain.
No, I think the economy has been a huge issue in this election, particularly, I would think, since September 15th, when Lehman Brothers closed. And John McCain has had some problems with the economic crisis. There are lots of voters who felt that Barack Obama was more steady in the economic crisis, according to our polling before tonight. So it's also hard when you're a Republican, and there's been 8 years of a Republican administration, and you're trying to make the case that you're going to change things in this country. People have a hard time with that.
But the line we heard for many years from Republicans, and David Gergen, you worked in the Reagan administration, so you remember, the Democrats will raise your taxes, there'll be big government, there'll be more spending, and John McCain tried that this time, but apparently with sort of mixed results.
It appears to be mixed results. It's way too early, but that Ohio result we just saw suggests it may have worked in Ohio, and it may have worked in some other states. So I think it's too early to tell. But two things. Well, it's also the number 2 issue is Iraq is down to 10%. But surprisingly, Obama won on Iraq. And I think Bill Bennett has made the argument repeatedly as John McCain, whose surge strategy seemed to work so well in Iraq. But I do think coming back to the economy with 62% saying it's the #1 concern, the turning point in this campaign came in September with the meltdown. And the way John McCain handled it versus the way Obama handled it, and the blame that was attached to the Bush administration. And since then, when McCain was ahead, Obama surged ahead, and he's never been behind in a single national poll since then.
Because when it comes to Iraq, with the surge working as it did, people who said Iraq was the most important issue for them, they voted, apparently, according to these exit polls, more for Barack Obama than John McCain.
Yeah, the problem is, and it's a good thing, is that because John McCain's advice was taken, the issue came off the screen. It lost its priority. It's not down at the bottom because we lost a war. It's not there because we're having some great success. And notice terror. I think Bill Schneider reported was at the very bottom. Remember the job description, the Federalist. The security of citizens is the first job of the President of the United States. So this is a good thing for the country, but not necessarily a good thing for John McCain's political fortunes. But let's hang on a few more hours.
No, it's definitely, we don't know the results yet. We're watching, Rick Stengel is here from our sister publication, Time Magazine. What are you watching for most closely right now?
Well, I think we have to go back to the economy. As Bill said, security is on people's minds, but economic security is what they're concerned about. That affects them in all kinds of ways. One of the reasons that the tax issue might not work so well for John McCain is the fact that there is an appetite for government solving some of these problems that we haven't seen in a long time. I mean, when Ronald Reagan said government, is the problem, not the solution, people are looking at it the other way around now. They're thinking that government is the solution for a lot of these problems.
Even been the solution if you listen to Wall Street. They want government, big government right now.
They want because the economy's in a wreck. And the central figure in this election, I think, isn't even on the ballot. That's George W. Bush. He is so intensely unpopular. He has burdened John McCain and the Republican Party with his looming unpopular presence, and I don't think there is much John McCain could have done to get out from under that shadow.
Rick, here's your journalistic question.
He's not dead, guys.
No, I was saying that yesterday, Bill.
No. A journalistic question. I may be the only one interested in this. You put Time Magazine to bed when? You got various covers ready to go? How do you do that?
Yes, we have 2 covers ready to go, and I guess the third alternative is if there's no decision, we close at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. We'll be up all night getting it ready. I mean, lots of stories are, what happened during the course of this election, the things that have never occurred before, for example, that Mark Halperin did. That doesn't matter who wins, so we're ready for whatever the result is.
All right, guys, stand by.
Dewey beats Truman.
Stand by, guys. We have a lot more coming up. Anderson Cooper getting ready to join us as well. We're going to be watching what happens at the top of the hour because polls in several states will be closed by then. All the polls, and we're going to be able to report on what's going on. Lots of news happening on this historic day. We're here at the CNN Election Center. We'll be right back. All right, the polls will be closing in 6 states at the top of the hour, about 20 minutes or so from now. Those 6 states are Vermont, Kentucky, South Carolina, Georgia, Indiana, and Virginia. Stand by for that. Although most of the precincts have already closed in both Indiana and Kentucky, very early numbers are already coming in. You see them changing even as we speak. In Indiana right now, with only 1% of the precincts reporting, 51% for Obama, 48% for McCain. Very, very early. McCain doing much better in Kentucky as expected. 66% so far from McCain, 33% for Obama. He's 3,600 votes ahead. Only 1% of the precincts reporting. We have shots. So we have locations all over the country where people are getting to watch what's going on. For example, in Chicago, this is Grant Park already. They're getting excited over there. Perhaps 1 million people are going to show up to hear Barack Obama later tonight. And this live picture picture from Times Square where they're watching us on CNN. Unfortunately, getting a little fuzzy right there, but we'll go back to Times Square. There it is. You can see that CNN is up on the monitor at Times Square. A lot of people are going to be gathering there as well. Let's go out to Grant Park, though, right now. Jessica Yellen is our correspondent. She's been reporting on the Obama campaign. Jessica, crowds, huge crowds getting ready to hear and see what's going on.
Well, there's a real intense sense of anticipation here tonight. It's unseasonably warm weather for Chicago, which is likely to draw even bigger crowds than expected. You can see it's empty right now inside the field, except for the many thousands of members of the international media who have gathered here, and then outside, already that crowd waiting to get in, and the doors don't even open officially for another 3 hours. 65,000 members of the general public are ticketed. There are huge jumbo screens in far-flung areas around the park, so in the event a million people show up, they can see some of what's happening. And guess what? Those monitors, at least the one right here in the park, set to CNN. So folks here will be getting their results from us.
That's the best place to be watching this stuff from. All right, Jessica, stand by. We're going to be getting back to you as well. I want to go to voter analysis right now at the CNN Election Center. Soledad O'Brien and Bill Schneider are crunching all the exit poll numbers in a new and revolutionary way. Soledad, update our viewers.
We'll go right to the voter analysis board, and one of the demographics that was very interesting to us was white evangelicals, because as you well know, John McCain really struggled to reach those white evangelicals. So, Bill, tell us how they look.
Let's take a look at those voters who said they were evangelical or born again and were also white. Now, notice that this is a sort of funnel effect here. What that means is, in every single state up here, white evangelical voters that we interviewed during the course of the day gave the edge to John McCain.
That's why it's red.
That's why each of those is red. They gave the biggest edge to John McCain in Mississippi. That's at the top of the funnel. And McCain's lead among white evangelical voters gets smaller and smaller until you get all the way down here to Minnesota, where he carried the evangelical vote, the white evangelical vote, but by the narrowest margin. In the country as a whole, white evangelical voters voted 72% for McCain, 26% for Obama. Is that as good as George W. Bush?
Well, I was going to ask you, really, what matters is how does that compare to how Bush did in '04?
It's a little less of a performance with this group. Bush got 78% of white evangelicals.
Drop.
So it's a 6-point drop for John McCain. But as you can see here, in every state where we interviewed white evangelical voters, McCain had the edge.
It'll be interesting to see, because I know there's a question on the exit polls we'll be able to look into a little bit later tonight. Governor Palin, of course, had a great appeal to those white evangelical voters. We'll be able to dig down and see, did she help the ticket? Did she hurt the ticket? As we go through the night.
Yes, we will.
All right, Bill, thank you, and we'll send it right back to you.
All right, guys, I love these numbers, and our viewers should know they can go to CNN.com, and they can get a lot of information. Here's what you need to do throughout this night. Watch us here on CNN. Also, with your laptop, go to CNN.com, because you'll be getting all the information coming in from all these key races all over the country. We'll take another quick break, but we're only just getting started. Polls in 6 states will be closing at the top of the hour. Get ready. We're here at the CNN Election Center. We'll be right back. We're back here at the CNN Election Center. Anderson Cooper is here. I hope you relaxed a little bit today, Anderson. Did you eat well? Because, you know, we're going to be here for a long time.
I ran, I worked out, I'm all ready to go as late as it takes.
Central Park, is that where you're
on a machine, anyway. But we got a lot of exciting races coming up. We've got about 12 minutes to polls close. Some key races that will really give a sense of where this race is heading tonight. We're going to find that out in the next 11 minutes.
Yeah, let me walk over, because some states are closing at the top of the hour. Let me show our viewers what's going on. In 11 minutes and 49 seconds, Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, South Carolina, Vermont, and Virginia. Those states will be closing. 2 of those states, polls have, and a lot of the states have already closed in Kentucky and Indiana right now, and we're getting the results, and you can see those results coming in at the bottom of the screen. But all of those states, the polls will be closed. Georgia, we're anxious to see what's happening in Georgia, because it wasn't expected to be a battleground state. We'll see if it turns out to be a battleground state. There's an important Senate race that's underway there as well. Indiana and Virginia, those are battleground states, so we're going to be watching those very, very closely. Kentucky was widely assumed to be going for John McCain, as was South Carolina. Vermont solidly in the red corner, but we're going to be watching all of these. More states will be closing at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, then at 8, 9, 10, and beyond. All right, we're going to go back to Anderson Cooper. He's got the best political team on television ready to assess. I'm really interested in Virginia and Indiana. I think, like all of us, see what happens at the top of the hour.
It is remarkable when you think about it. Virginia, Indiana has not gone for a Democratic president since Lyndon Johnson. Georgia went for Bill Clinton in 1992. That was the last time they voted for a Democrat for president. What are you looking for in Indiana, in Virginia, in Georgia, which is going to happen in the next 10 minutes?
Well, I think Virginia is going to be a key, because if Virginia goes for Obama, then I think you will have a sense that Obama would be having a very good night. It's a state that folks in the Obama campaign believe that John McCain took for granted, Anderson, and they think that McCain should have been in that state more. I was told, for example, an Obama staffer said to me, "Where did we go the day after we got the nomination?" We went to the state of Virginia. John McCain hadn't been back there until October, when the polls started closing. So, very important state tonight.
These are what you could call ruby red states. You know, they're very deeply red. Virginia has voted only for one Democrat in 56 years.
Although it was interesting last night, Babe Buchanan kind of was writing off Virginia, saying, "Oh, we've been losing Virginia for a while now."
That was when they had the real Virginia versus the new Virginia, exactly. And Indiana has only gone once for a Democrat in 70 years. And both of them are competitive. I think Virginia is the one we're all watching, because it's a linchpin for Obama. If he can win Virginia, it's very hard to see a road back for McCain, even if he were to take Pennsylvania. If McCain takes Virginia and then take Pennsylvania, it's going to be a very interesting long night. So I think a lot hinges on Virginia.
Also in Georgia, Saxby Chambliss, in a race for his career, he did not anticipate. I know months ago, no one would have anticipated the race for Saxby Chambliss. That was a seat that the Republicans could actually lose.
All sorts of places are in play that normally aren't for Republicans. On Virginia, two things. Remember, Jim Webb did beat George Allen, and that's a big deal. Also, Virginia, this is not your grandfather's Virginia. I work in Northern Virginia. Northern Virginia, Roslyn area, a lot more people there than in the Richmond area. So it's a different state. It's indistinguishable, really, from suburban Maryland, that whole D.C. area. But look, I want to give credit to someone whose name hasn't come up often, Howard Dean. Whatever the outcome, and let me just say the outcome isn't in yet, all right? Sorry to be a broken record.
No, that's right.
And that is, Howard Dean was criticized for saying we should play on a national table. I think he was absolutely right.
And he said that before Barack Obama.
Absolutely.
Was really
Remember, people said, "What the heck's he doing in Mississippi? What's he doing?" It was a very good strategy.
Barack
I think.
Obama has a right. He was right, but this is a Barack Obama strategy.
But Howard Dean was indeed critical, and I had a piece on CNN.com about this, because Howard Dean, what he laid out in terms of the internet fundraising, but also saying we've got to rebuild infrastructure. What also helped Obama is that you had an energized base in some of those states to build upon, and so I'm very hoping. One of James Carville back there, who was one of the folks who called for Howard Dean to get run out of town because of that 50-state strategy, if he may say that Howard kind of was right. It was him, Chuck Schumer.
First of all, that's erroneous. I didn't say that he should get out run out of town for a 50-state strategy. I said he should be run out of town for leaving $10 million on the table after the 2006 election. If you're going to quote me, you should try to quote me correctly.
I got you.
But I did not say, in the way that you have a 50-state strategy is you win a national election by 7 or 8 points, and then you carry a lot of states. If you win an election by 1 point, you're going to carry fewer.
Did you think, I mean, a year ago, that the Democratic candidate would be seriously competitive in Georgia, in Indiana?
Well, if I thought that we were going to win an election by 10 points or 9 points, I would think we would be competitive in a lot of places. You can't. There's no possible way that you can separate the national number from the state number. You can't win an election if Obama would say the public average going in this election was 7.5. There's no way that you can win by 7.5 points and not be competitive in a lot of states that you're not normally competitive in. The whole thing changes. And the idea that you have two party staffers in a state is going to matter when you have a trend and a wave election. If this turns out to be a wave election, you're going to be competitive in a lot of places.
When you have a national strategy and a national economic meltdown, it's smart to have a national strategy. But if you hadn't had that, and we'd be fighting over a few states, Howard Dean wouldn't be as smart. But by the way, let me just add something to what someone at the table over there said, that somehow America has decided that more big government in Washington is the answer. And what we really want is, hey, we're thrilled with the way Washington's working and we want more of that. No, America just had a test of that. We just had an economic meltdown, and Washington went to America and said, give us 700 billion tax dollars, we'll get you out of this mess, we'll save your life. And America said, we don't trust you. So if the Democratic Party takes the message out of this election that what America wants is more old industrial age, one-size-fits-all big government, they're wrong.
But that wasn't just the Democratic Party. There was also John McCain who supported that $700 billion.
Republicans did so reluctantly. We hated doing it. Democrats think this is Christmas.
Yeah, right. Interesting perception. Paul Begala, were you thrilled by it?
Wait, by the
spending
no,
of $700 billion.
Look, it was President Bush who put that package together. It was President Bush who sent it to the Congress. It was President Bush who asked them to do it. Why? Because the metaphor they were using to sell it, Hank Paulson went to the Democrats and said the house is on fire. Well, if in fact the house was on fire, it was a case of arson. It was not a lightning strike. It was a man-made, policy-driven catastrophe, and those policies were all Republicans. And, you know, I'm never going to like what they do. Alex always will. It doesn't matter what we think. Voters are weighing in here. That's what I mean. I don't want to get into
too mild on debate about the bailout. Let's talk about Indiana, Virginia, Georgia, what we're anticipating.
People are voting on the economy, and they're voting against the Republican economic theory. And Alex may not like that. He may think it's socialist or whatever. I'm not really interested. He's not a swing voter.
In some of these states, though, it's going to be hard to get perhaps an accurate sense of what's happening. Polls close at 7, but we may not know for quite a while. In Indiana, I mean, it depends on the region where these votes are coming from. The Indianapolis area is very different than other parts in Indiana.
And, in places like Virginia, they're also starting to have some problems. You're starting to see Virginia, Florida, and other places where they're having problems with machines. They're already issuing lawsuits, as we're reporting on our website tonight. So I think it's going to be a long night for some of these states. And quite frankly, early on, I couldn't see Virginia going towards Obama's way. But I think certainly this is one of the states that we're looking at very, very seriously that possibly could. I mean, obviously that would be historic. And so I think, to your point, though, I have to pick up on this because I think part of the revolt against Republicans is that Republicans didn't keep their word as it relates to spending and taxing. Those are one of the issues that voters are grappling with because George Bush, in their eyes, didn't keep his word, and Republicans didn't keep their word when it came to bringing down the taxes and all of that. So I think that this is something that we're not in this new zone of wanting more and bigger government. We're in a zone of wanting something different than more of the same. And so that is what voters are looking at this election. And I think Alex made some very good points in that regard. I don't think this should be a message that we want bigger government.
James, if the Democrats are to pick up a 60 seats, to get a 60-seat filibuster-proof majority, you say it's pretty tough. But Saxby Chambliss would have to lose in Georgia to make that happen.
They would have to either win in Kentucky, Georgia, Mississippi, one of those three to get to 9 seats. They can get to 8 seats with Alaska and Minnesota. They can't get to 9 without a win in one of those 3 states.
All right. A lot to look for in the next, couple of minutes. Roland, I know you want to get in.
We spent a lot of time in the Democratic primary talking about West Virginia, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, the old Democratic map. The Obama campaign from day one always said that Virginia was the most important state for them because when you look at that Western strategy of Colorado, New Mexico, Nevada, they said you win Virginia, we have to win Ohio or Pennsylvania. So a lot of Democrats were saying, but no, the old model, they said, no, this is the new model. That's why Virginia was key.
Virginia's a new state. It's had a population surge of almost 50% in the last 10 years. Yeah. It isn't, your father's Virginia, your grandfather's Virginia.
The reason why Obama can compete in all these places is he had so much money. He had so much money, more than John McCain. It's easy, frankly, to do strategy when you can buy advertising all over the country, and that's what he's been doing.
But even before they had the money, that was still their strategy.
Yeah, but that's the point. The brilliance of the Obama campaign, and I think we will conclude tonight by however else it comes out, I think we'll all conclude, he ran one of the best campaigns we've ever seen in modern politics. Yep. And his capacity to take the internet, Howard Dean started this, he picked up on it, and he did something Dean didn't did not do. He married the internet to community organizing. So he not only was able to use the internet to raise money, but to mobilize thousands upon thousands of volunteers in ways we've never seen before.
And took advantage of things like early voting,
exactly.
for example, just the way he did the caucuses. When we went through the whole primary process, Barack Obama knew how to organize the caucuses.
Exactly.
He knew how to get his voters out there.
It seems in a way, though,
voting.
that the Hillary Clinton's people just did not understand. I mean, they seemed strategic in a way that no one else, even in the primaries, was.
But mechanics and materialism aside, and these are all important considerations in the race, this is a really, really good candidate. I mean, as good, a natural, as we say in sports. And again, however it comes out. This guy, I mean, a flawless campaign, but almost flawless in his execution, in the debates and the speeches and almost everything else.
He made one mistake on the guns and the bitterness.
Yes, right.
Over 2 years, one mistake. That's a pretty good batting average to continue the sports metaphor.
Somebody who hadn't run for the presidency before, who hadn't run for the vice presidency before.
Who was an Illinois state senator 23 months before.
That's correct.
We got a lot to talk about over the 24 hours that we will be here.
Sorry I raised the Howard Dean thing.
we'll smooth that out over the break.
I'll praise him.
Let's go back to Wolf.
We like it.
Good discussion, guys, and we're only just getting started. We're only a few seconds away from the top of the hour, and polls will be closing in these 6 states. At the top of the hour, we're going to be able to make some projections about what is going on, and this is only just the beginning of what is going to be a fascinating night to make a projection. And CNN can now project that in Vermont, as expected, Barack Obama will carry that state. In New England, 3 electoral votes. Barack Obama, we project, will win in Vermont. At the same time, John McCain will carry Kentucky once again as expected. 8 electoral votes. Not a huge surprise on either Vermont or Kentucky. We are not able to make a projection in the 4 other states that are closing all their polls at this hour right now. And some of them are battleground states: Georgia, Indiana, South Carolina, and Virginia. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be close or not close. The reason why we cannot make projections sometimes is because we simply don't have enough information, and we're not simply going to rely on the exit poll numbers that have come in. The exit poll numbers are pretty good, but they're not always perfect, so we're going to wait to see the real numbers come in before we make a projection in these 4 states. We're watching Indiana very closely because that's turned out to be a battleground state, and Virginia. Indiana and Virginia, as you know, they have not gone for a Democratic presidential candidate since 1964 when LBJ carried those states. So those are going to be very, very important in the early understanding of what's going on in this historic day in the United States. Let's check in with Soledad O'Brien and Bill Schneider. They're taking a look at exit poll numbers that are coming in. Soledad?
Right, Wolf, we'll take you right to the voter analysis board. And you'll remember earlier in the night I said this is going to be the why board. Why someone won, why someone lost, why it's close. So this is our first opportunity to dig down that direction. Let's start with Vermont, which was called for Barack Obama. No surprise, said Wolf. Who delivered for Barack Obama?
Vermont has turned blue. Let's take a look. I hate states at the bottom of the alphabet, but here is Vermont right here.
This is hard to reach.
Yes, it's a little hard to reach, but the higher the group, the higher the category on this chart, the bigger Obama's margin. Clearly, he did best among Democrats and liberals, but if you look at this chart, Obama carried every one of these constituencies. They're all blue. Men, white men, voters with and without a college degree, Catholic voters, all went for Obama. The only groups in Vermont that didn't go to Obama are the 2 red groups at the bottom, conservatives and Republicans.
Not exactly a shocker there. Take me to Kentucky, which we are calling for Senator McCain.
Okay. Kentucky is a red state here on this board. And look at this. Many red categories, best, of course, Republicans and conservatives. But interestingly, in Kentucky, men, unlike Vermont, men voted heavily for McCain, 58% over Obama. And Kentucky is a very rural and white state. Look at white voters in Kentucky. These are Appalachian whites who are always a problem for Obama. 63% of whites in Kentucky delivered for John McCain, only 36% for Obama. And rural voters in Kentucky, again, 63% for McCain, 36% Obama.
Even the 18 to 24-year-old group, which is traditionally Obama territory.
Look, they went narrowly they split their vote, 50% for McCain, 48% for Obama. This is, most states is an Obama category. In Kentucky, they split.
But as Wolf said going in, no big surprise here. Both of these states were safe states, Kentucky for Senator McCain and Vermont for Senator Obama. So, Wolf, that's the why. That's why we have the winners in those two states.
All right, guys, thanks very much. I want to take a look at these two states right now. Indiana, about 120,000 votes have already been counted in Indiana. 4% of the precincts have now reported. Look at how close it is. 50% for McCain, 49% for Barack Obama. Only a difference of 1,255 votes, so it's close. We don't know which of these precincts have reported yet what part of the states, because some parts of the states are more Democratic than other parts, some more Republican, but it's close with 4% of the precincts now in. As far as Kentucky is concerned, 10% of the precincts have now reported, and Senator McCain, we've projected he's the winner in Kentucky with 52%, 47% for Barack Obama. He's almost 8,000 votes ahead. This is with 10% of the precincts having now reported. So it's still very, very early, but based on the exit polls, based on the real numbers that are actually coming in, we've projected that Kentucky is going for John McCain. Vermont, as we noted earlier, we've projected that Vermont is going for Barack Obama. And we're getting some new numbers right now. Take a look at this. In Virginia, we can now project that Mark Warner, the Democratic former governor of the state, will win, beat Jim Gilmore, the former Republican governor of Virginia. This is a pickup. It's the seat that John Warner, the longtime Republican senator from Virginia, no relation to Mark Warner, has vacated. But Mark Warner, a very, very popular former governor of Virginia, and now Virginia will have a sitting Democratic governor, Tim Kaine, who's long supported Barack Obama, and two Democratic senators, Mark Warner, once he's sworn in, and Jim Webb, who won back in 2006. So that's for a supposedly reliable Republican or red state. That's pretty impressive that now both senators, the incoming senator and the current senator, the incumbent senator, are both Democrats, as well as the sitting governor, Tim Kaine of Virginia. But this is a pickup. It's one more Senate seat that moves the Democrats, Anderson, closer to that 60 filibuster-proof majority in the Senate. Right now they have 61 if you include the two independent senators who have caucused with the Democrats. But this is not a huge surprise, but the Democrats are pretty happy about Mark Warner getting elected in Virginia.
Not a big surprise at all, though, but this race in Georgia, Saxby Chambliss, also at 7:30, polls close in North Carolina. Elizabeth Dole facing a real challenge, the greatest challenge of her career. Do you think she can hold on tonight?
Well, in the polls that we've seen going through this race all along, she is the decided underdog here. It's not a great year to be a Republican incumbent generally, and she's had some problems in the state. She's running against a very good competitor there. Also in Georgia, Saxby Chambliss, you know, 5 or 6 weeks ago, he was fine. He was floating to re-election. There was no problem.
What was it? The turning point? The economy?
I think it was the economy. Obama had all about left the state, and then suddenly, when you had the economic turnaround, he started broadcasting commercials in that state, started putting the heat on in that state. Turnout's going to be very important in that state. 29% black electorate.
You get a huge black turnout, and then the Martin folks, they were blown out by it. And Obama came back in, but put more money back in the state, not necessarily to win it, but to help Martin win the Senate seat.
Yeah, from the Obama point of view, if they could win Virginia and they could win the Senate seat in North Carolina and win a Senate seat in Georgia, that would make them look more like a national president as opposed to being a blue state president. So there's a lot riding on this for Obama, how these things come out. In North Carolina, I happen to be from there. You know, Elizabeth Dole and Bob Dole, of course, have been staples of Republican politics for years. They're part of the brand. She made a terrible mistake right at the end, and this was the ad she ran against Kay Hagan, you know, talking about godless money. And Kay Hagan, and because she'd gone to a fundraiser held by an atheist, and Kay Hagan happens to be an elder in the Presbyterian Church who teaches Sunday school, and it backfired on Elizabeth Dole, and it just may help Barack Obama in North Carolina.
But sometimes the candidates themselves matter. You know, Elizabeth Dole was ranked, according to one of these rankings, the 93rd most effective senator, and Kay Hagan made an ad using that fact, And, you know, Elizabeth Dole has made almost no impact as a senator. She's a very famous person, but in 6 years in the Senate, she had very little to point to. She also had only been in the state of North Carolina for 16 days in the year 2005. That's the definition of going Washington. So you can talk about sort of all the national trends, but, you know, she just hadn't really done her job as a senator.
But it could help Obama. Her weaknesses now could help Obama.
Reverse coattails?
Yeah.
Again, the body's not cold, but I'd like to point out that the results aren't in. But I spent a lot of time in North Carolina. The problem of constituent service is an issue for Elizabeth Dole. And I think David's point is a really good point. The reason I brought up the Howard Dean thing, and I didn't mean to create chaos here. No, it's all good fun. But that is, are the Democrats a coastal party? Remember those maps, and we'll see maps over the next few days, and we'll see maps of the counties. You remember the red country, right? And then here are the university towns, right? And or the liberal votes and so on. If he gets a Georgia, a North Carolina, Virginia, say he gets 2 out of 3, it changes things very much in terms of people's perception. And also gives him, I know I'm jumping ahead, were he to become president, leverage with liberals in Congress that want to push the party to the left, which is what we're hoping they'll do.
Well, that's something we want to talk about for either candidate, whichever candidate wins, whether it's Barack Obama or John McCain, the question of leading, and will either candidate have a mandate to lead and a mandate for their policies? We're going to talk about that a lot in the hours ahead. An important thing, not just winning this election, but actually leading this country for both these men, whomever may win tonight. We have a lot more ahead, hours and hours of coverage. CNN.com is the place to go while we're in commercial break. Check out what is happening there. You'll see all the polling that we are getting. You'll see it also on CNN.com. You can pretend to be John King at your home and impress your friends and your family. We'll be right back here on CNN.
All right, we're counting the votes. They're coming in here to the CNN Election Center. We're taking a look at Indiana right now. About 7% of the precincts have now reported. This is a key battleground state. Look at how close it is right now. Senator Obama, 50%. Senator McCain, 49%. And you can see we're doing the math for you. 3,434 votes. Obama ahead of McCain right now. More than 200,000 votes have been counted in Indiana. 7% of the precincts are in. 11 electoral votes at stake. In the other key battleground state, the polls have all closed in Virginia right now. About 1% of the precincts are in. Senator McCain with 55% to 44% for Senator Obama. He's ahead by about 2,670 votes. You see, we're doing the math for you here as well. This is very, very early in Virginia. Both Indiana and Virginia, we're not in any position to make any projections for right now. We're watching the votes as they come in, but they're going to be coming in relatively quickly. These are two important battleground states that could set the tone for what could be happening later tonight. I want to show you also some live pictures we're getting in from Grant Park in Chicago. That's where Senator Obama eventually will be showing up, and people are showing up in huge numbers there right now as you can see the crowd getting ready for what they hope. These are Obama supporters in Chicago. They hope it will be an exciting and positive night for them. But you know what? We're going to have to watch these votes actually come in. You saw Jessica Yellen over at Grant Park just a little while ago when we were talking to her. We're going to do something that's never been done on television before. We're going to bring her in from Chicago into the Situation Room, right into the CNN Election Center, excuse me, right now. I want you to watch what we're about to do because you've never seen anything like this on television.
Hi, Wolf.
All right, big round of applause. We did it. There she is, Jessica Yellen. I know you're in Chicago, but we've done something, a hologram. We beamed you in. We beamed you in here into the CNN Election Center. I want to talk to you as I would normally be talking to you if you were really face-to-face with me. I know you're at least 1,000 miles away, but it looks like you're right here. Tell us what's going on in Chicago right now.
Well, there are massive crowds gathered outside here, as you just saw. 65,000 ticketed people are going to be let in, but as many as 1 million are expected to be outside surrounding this Grant Park location. And walking on the streets outside, Wolf, you can feel the intensity, the excitement, the anticipation for what they hope will be a truly historic night He's their hometown boy here in Chicago, Barack Obama is, and so there's real passion for him in this town, Wolf.
And where is he and his family? Where are they now? Where are they watching all of this? They might be watching us right now on their own monitors, wherever they are.
Barack Obama is at the Hyatt Hotel nearby, where he's going to eventually be watching election returns as well. He played basketball earlier in the day, which has become, you know, an election day tradition for him. And we're expecting him to go home at some point, change, and then watch his election returns and, you know, turn up here eventually to make the much anticipated speech. Well,
you know what I like about this hologram, and you're a hologram now, Jessica, instead of having thousands of people behind you screaming and shouting, you know what, we could have a little bit more of an intimate conversation, and our viewers can enjoy that as well. How excited are you, Jessica, that this is you're the first one that we've beamed in to the CNN Election Center?
I know, it's like I follow in the tradition of Princess Leia. It's something else. It's the first time it's been live on television, and it's a remarkable setup, if I could tell you about it for a moment. I'm inside a tent in Chicago that's been built. Engineers spent about 3 weeks doing it. There are 35 high-definition cameras ringing me, in a ring around me. I'm in the center, and they shoot my body at different angles, and I'm told that transmits what looks like an entire body image back there to New York. These cameras, I'm told, talk to the cameras in New York, so they move, and they know when to move when the cameras in New York move, and it looks a little different from a real person there, but it's pretty remarkable.
It's still Jessica Yellen, and you look like Jessica Yellen. We know you are Jessica Yellen. Let's get back to the important politics of this night. What are they looking for right now, the Obama campaign? What are they most interested in seeing in this, the early part of this evening?
Well, what they're going to be looking for, first of all, are those red states that we've been talking about, Virginia, Indiana, to see what the results look like. You've started talking about it, and especially how those late deciders broke. They have a very clear sense of how many people were already on board with them going into today. The big unknown is the people who made up their mind yesterday, today. If there's a high number of late deciders breaking for them in these red states, they feel that will be a very, very good night. And so they're feeling nervous. Everyone I'm talking to, very, very nervous right now, Wolf.
I think a lot of people are nervous out there. All right, Jessica, you were a terrific hologram. Thanks very much. Jessica Yellen is in Chicago. She's not here in New York with us at the CNN Election Center. But you know what? It looked like she was right here. It's pretty amazing technology. Let's take a closer look and see what's going on right now. All the polls in Florida won't close until 8 p.m. At the top of the hour, but a lot of the polls have already closed in Florida, and so they're giving us their numbers so far. Less than 1% of the precincts have reported. Senator McCain slightly ahead. This is very early, 54% to 46%, a difference of 6,575. But as I said, this is very, very early in Florida. We'll see how close this contest is. All the polls in Florida, out in the western part of the state in Pensacola, Panhandle, they're not going to be closed until the top of the hour, so we can't make any projections there. In Indiana, all the polls have closed in Indiana. About 9% of the precincts are now reporting. Senator McCain slightly ahead by 2,276 votes, 50% to 49%. And you can see about 260,000 ballots have already been counted. We're only getting started. More polls are about to close. We're going to continue our coverage from the CNN Election Center right after this. Minutes from now, the polls will be closing in 3 more states, including the battleground states of North Carolina and Ohio, the third state, West Virginia. You take a look at these live pictures, Anderson. These are folks, they're running into Grant Park right now.
They've just opened it up. This is where the Obama campaign has basically set up a giant viewing party. They're going to be watching election results come in. They've basically just opened up, and literally you see people running to kind of get a good location so they can watch. But Senator Obama is anticipated to speak there at some point this evening.
Yeah, they've gone through security, and now they're going in there to get a location. These are very, very excited folks that are getting in there. They think they're going to be celebrating. We don't know if they will, but we'll see.
Amazing weather in Chicago tonight. I think I heard Roland say it was like 71 degrees, so 71 degrees. So it's going to be a nice night to view.
But he's really here, Roland. He's not in Chicago Is he here or is he in Chicago?
We have the actual Roland Martin here.
He's actually here.
Actually
okay,
here.
the real Roland is here, not a hologram. All right, but maybe one of these days, Roland, we'll bring you in, we'll beam you in to the CNN Election
Safe
Center.
travel, absolutely.
Roland Martin getting ready. All right, let me walk over to the boards and see what's going on right now in the key battleground state of Florida. 27 electoral votes. They haven't closed all the precincts in Florida yet, the western part of the state, but the state is already reporting some numbers. You see about 130,000 or so ballots have already been counted. Right now, with less than 1% of the precincts reporting, McCain with 54%, Obama with 46%, 11,137. That's the difference. This year, as you can see, we're doing the math for you, so you don't have to worry about that. In Virginia, where the polls closed at 7 p.m. Eastern, the 2% of the precincts have now reported. McCain ahead, 53% to 46%, but this is very, very early. You see that he's ahead by 4,387 votes. In another battleground state in Indiana, where the polls closed at 7 p.m. Eastern, right now we have McCain with 51% to Obama's 48%. He's up by 8,619. John McCain. That's with 12% of the precincts reporting, 11 electoral votes at stake in Indiana. Let me walk over and bring in Campbell Brown and John King. You know what? I'm excited about what's going on. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but it's just exciting to be able to report about what's going on, Campbell.
Well, we're starting to get some bits and pieces that may help you put a puzzle together eventually, Wolf. And let's go to John for that and take us through. I know you're getting some county-by-county numbers. Let's start with Virginia. Long a red state. A real race. Obama was ahead going into it, and we're watching especially northern Virginia.
We're watching Virginia, but we have very little right now, Campbell. If you look, we have 2 small rural counties reporting. Down here, just south of Richmond, Chesterfield County has a decent amount of the population, 3.7%. This is suburban Richmond right in the top part. Down here gets pretty rural. But again, very early on, John McCain winning in that one county. The 46% is only of that county, so don't anybody jump right ahead. Most of the state of Virginia is still very white. That means the votes have not come in yet. Campbell County, a very small rural county out here in central to South Virginia. McCain running up the numbers, as you would expect in that part of Virginia right there. But we have a long way to go. Down here in Virginia is a critical area. The most critical area of Virginia right up here, the northern Virginia suburbs just outside of Washington, D.C. are growing rapidly, and an African-American concentration down in the Richmond area. So Virginia...
Demographics changing a lot in that part, especially northern Virginia.
Rapidly changing up here. Influx of suburbanites who lean Democratic and influx of Latino voters who have been leaning Democratic in most of the polls, too. If you look over here, Campbell, this is getting interesting early. The state of Indiana is starting to fill in more quickly, and I want you to look now at this. This is the state of Indiana with results coming in, and we emphasize and must stress 12%. Long way to go in Indiana. A lot of Democrats in years past would say, can we just stop it right there? If we lose Indiana by 3 points, that would be a great year in the past. The Obama campaign thinks it is in play here, and I want to go back in time to show you why. Excuse me for stepping across, but I'm going to go back to 2004. This is John Kerry versus George W. Bush, and look, 60% to 39%. George W. Bush wins the state. Remember the blue. Indianapolis has a Democratic base. Bloomington is a college town, has a Democratic base. And up here, you're essentially in the Chicago suburbs, closest over here, Gary, Indiana, Hammond, Indiana. And you move across here, there's a Democratic base. Remember now, those are the blue areas. That's where John Kerry did well 4 years ago. Right. Now let's fast forward to where we are tonight as we watch the results come in. The Democratic votes have not come in Bloomington yet. In Indianapolis, they're just starting to come in slowly. You see that light green? Nothing at all up here yet. And yet Barack Obama is running a very competitive race in the very early results in Indiana. Why? He's doing well here. This is the Illinois border, southern Illinois. This is conservative rural country. It's his home state, but this is conservative country. If he can run well down here and he can run well over here,
we could have a real surprise.
We could have a real surprise. And let's just look at one other thing before we go here. Fort Wayne, Indiana. You see McCain is winning right now. Let's come into that county. That's Allen County, 5.5% of the state population. McCain is winning 52% to 47%. But one way we judge, is Barack Obama competitive statewide in Indiana? Again, excuse me for stepping across. Let's go back in time. 4 years ago, that was 63-36. So at the moment, Obama is running stronger than the Democrat, even in the counties he is losing, and that is critical. When you're competing in a state that defaults to the other side, Republican in the case of Indiana, yes, you want to win where the Democrats are, as we saw John Kerry do 4 years ago, but you also want to perform as strong as possible in the places the other guy's going to win. Limit the margins, run up the numbers in the Democratic communities, and Barack Obama has a chance in the very red state of Indiana.
And we should say, as always, caveat, still very early. These are very preliminary numbers. We get a lot of information.
12%. That leaves a long way to go. A lot of counting to go.
And yet we can do so much with 12%.
Absolutely.
All right, Wolf.
All right, guys, thanks very much. Let's update you on what we know so far for sure based on our projections. And take a look at this map. The red state, that's Kentucky. We've projected that that will go for John McCain, 8 electoral votes. That blue state up in the corner in New England, that's Vermont, 3 electoral votes will go for Barack Obama. These other yellow states, these are states that have closed: Indiana, Virginia, South Carolina, and Georgia. But we cannot yet make any projections based on the information we have so far. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be close. It just means that we're in no position to make a projection yet. Right now, it's almost 7:30. Right now, it is 7:30. Right now, 3 more states are closing their polls: North Carolina, Ohio, and West Virginia. And if it were a blowout or whatever, we'd be able to make a projection right now, but we don't have enough information to make any projections in these states. North Carolina is clearly a battleground state. Ohio, remember, no Republican has ever been elected to the White House without carrying Ohio. That state is now closed its polls. And West Virginia, we're going to watch all of that closely. Let's update you on what we know so far. Florida, all the polls in Florida will close at the top of the hour, but as of now, with those precincts, about 1% reporting, McCain with 34%, Obama 48%. It's a 39,713 advantage for Barack Obama right now in Florida. We're watching this race closely. Virginia with about 3% of the precincts reporting. McCain with 56%, Obama 44%. It's slightly ahead for McCain right now. In Indiana with 14% of the precincts reporting, 52% for McCain, 47% for Obama. McCain ahead with 16,812. 14% of the precincts just changed, 52 to 47 in Indiana. I think we're going to have to check those Florida numbers. If something's not looking right, if you add up those percentages in Florida, we'll get back and check those numbers in a moment. But I want to walk over to Anderson. Yeah, those Florida numbers don't look right because it doesn't add up to anything close to 100%. But we'll check out what's going on in Florida. We'll fix the math, and we'll update our viewers as soon as we can.
It's also important to point out to our viewers that where these votes are coming from at this point is very important in terms of, we just saw John King looking at the state of Indiana, some of the areas around Indianapolis, around the Chicago markets we haven't heard from. Again, just important to keep in mind, it is very early hours, but you're already getting emails, David, from some folks saying, are we in for a big surprise tonight?
Well, it's interesting. Some of the Obama folks are sending emails saying, hey, I'm scared. But look what's happening here. It looks like we're in real trouble. But it's important to remember back 4 years ago, for the first hour and a half, we were on here talking about President Kerry. You know, and he was going to celebrate.
Those exit polls.
Well, there was just a lot of signs that it was looking like Kerry, especially the exit polls. And I'd have to say, these are really preliminary. Nobody should draw too many conclusions. Let's get a little more of the night, and we'll settle it. It's way too early to say President McCain looking at these numbers.
But as you look, I mean, I saw you looking at John King's map of Indiana very closely. What were you looking for?
Well, I think that's a much more reliable measure. These raw numbers tell you nothing. But if you look at 4 years ago, what the counties did, and now today, that gives you a much more reliable basis.
And clearly in Indiana, Obama is making inroads in some counties that they were not competitive.
No
Bush won by 21 points. So that's not going to happen. I mean, I think Obama also benefits from the fact that he's a next-door neighbor in Indiana.
Illinois, yeah, those counties right on the border.
And they share a big media market there, so they know Barack Obama.
They shipped a ton of people into Indiana. But also, when John showed that southern sector, a lot of folks thought that Obama, when he ran for Senate, was not going to do well downstate. And the reality is he did. And so he did extremely well there. Even when they went to Iowa, folks were saying, yeah, but that's closer to the border. It's a southern border. He won't do well. Chicago is the focus. But he went to those states. He spent lots of, that portion of the state, spent lots of time there, and they got to know him. And I think you're seeing the benefit of that being right on the border with Indiana.
If you go back to May 6th, the Indiana primary, where Obama almost beat Hillary Clinton, the key county was Lake County, up in the northwest corner of the state. Gary, where it came in very, very late. Remember, it was a whole chaotic, like the mayor, crazy, chaotic situation. But that was the county that almost put Obama over the top.
Nonsensical conversations, I think, between Wolf and the mayor, like, why aren't you reporting? I don't understand.
We have that mayor in a hologram.
Yeah. We'll get the mayor in a hologram later. I want to talk to some of our analysts back here. I saw James Carville, you work in your phone. I'm not sure who you're talking to. What are you hearing? What are you interested in? What should our viewers right now at this point be looking for?
Well, you know, first of all, the national number is going to determine a lot. But I mean, I think that the big overview here is, there's a recession going on, and that's going to have everything to do with this race. If the Obama national number comports with the public average, which is around 7.5, then he's going to carry a lot of these states. If the national number shrinks to 4 or 3, then a lot of these states that they think they're going to carry, they're not going to do it. I suspect that you know, Indiana, looking at the map, agreeing with what some of our colleagues said over there, a lot of these areas that are not in, or the Democratic areas are not in. I was just on the phone with some people in Virginia, the Democratic areas of Virginia not in, but I suspect a lot of Republican areas either. If you have a big win, you know you're going to carry a lot of these states are going to come up with it. If it narrows, then you're not going to carry it. Then Obama's not going to carry some of these states he does. I suspect the national number will still be pretty big.
I'll tell you, I think the thing I'm looking for tonight is, one is, I think those gentlemen over there at the table were right, is that if these exit polls are as wrong this year as they were for Kerry, then John McCain's going to carry some states, surprise some people, and we may have a closer race than some of the polls have said. But I'm going to be looking for the silent majority versus the silent minority. Richard Nixon's silent majority, a group of white working class voters that carried elections for Republicans. Reagan found them, working class Democrats. They're going to go out and vote this year. They're voting for John McCain. But this is a very different country. It's more diverse. And the silent majority may now be smaller, relatively speaking. Maybe the silent minority, it may go Republican, but it may not be enough to elect a Republican president.
And I think Republicans are more hesitant to vote or to speak out, excuse me, in these exit polls to give their opinions. They are very silent voters, and many of these polls do tend to lean more Democrat. I think also we need to look for some of the trends. You know, I know the Obama campaign was looking at the younger voters, and if we see in Kentucky, for example, an overwhelming majority, it looks like early on in some of these numbers, about 80% of young voters, whereas John McCain got some of these in Vermont for Obama, but in Kentucky for McCain, it was the older voters. So I think Obama is relying on some of these younger voters. He even talked about the absentee ballots and the absentee voters, but some of those voters, it looks like, are turning out, seem to be shifting in McCain's direction. So I think they're looking at some of these key voting pockets, and those are, I think, the folks that we need to look at when we're talking about some of these exit polls.
Point out to our viewers, we're looking at real votes right now in these states that have closed. But why does anyone buy these exit polls? Why do we even pay for them if no one even seems to think they're reliable?
I didn't even go to the briefing.
I walked out of the briefing, to be honest.
I didn't even show up. They can be useful post facto if they reweight them to match reality. Then we can know, how did Catholics vote, how did Hispanics vote, how did Asian Pacific Islanders vote. Okay, that's useful post facto. Right. For tonight, I'm looking at real votes. Right. And I'm hearing from people, for example, one thing that's very interesting. Traditionally, for all time, absentee and early voters have been 60% generally Republican. This time, maybe as high as 60% Democratic. Does that presage a much bigger turnout for the Democratic Party? Anecdotally, you keep hearing that, but we don't know until the real votes come in today. In other words, did the Democrats simply shift their votes?
Right, did the people who are going to vote anyway just vote early?
Right.
Or do we have, if it's a big vote for everybody, does that negate the Obama advantage? Is he just filling a glass that's already full? If everybody votes, then, hey, Republicans may have had a good turnout operation, too. We just didn't know it.
It's interesting watching on this big board over here the pictures from Grant Park in Chicago where thousands of people clearly have already gathered. You see a lot more people coming in as they get in through security. We are watching them as they are watching us right now. we got a lot more ahead. Let's go back to Wolf right now, Wolf.
All right, guys, thanks very much. I want to update our viewers on what we know right now. These are not exit poll numbers. These are real numbers, real ballots that already have been counted and have been released by these respective states. In North Carolina right now, less than 1% of the precincts have reported. Right now, Senator McCain with 48%, Senator Obama with 51%, only a 439 vote advantage for Senator Obama. But remember, it's very, very early in this race, 15 electoral votes in North Carolina. Florida, we fixed of the technical problems we had. These are the latest numbers coming in from the state of Florida. 2% of the precincts reporting Obama ahead, 57% to McCain's 43%. That's 151,000 advantage for Barack Obama. You can see we're doing the math for you to make it relatively easy. Those are 27 electoral votes in Florida at stake. All of the polls in Florida will be closed at the top of the hour, 8 p.m. Eastern. In Indiana right now, almost 20% of the precincts have closed. That's a significant number. McCain ahead slightly, 51% to 48% for Barack Obama. 17,000 just changed, 406 votes difference, an advantage for Senator McCain in Indiana. And the popular vote right now, with about 1% of the precincts reporting nationally in all 50 states and the District of Columbia, the numbers that have come in so far. Right now, Obama with 51%, McCain with 48%. It's a 64,251 advantage for Senator Obama. About 2 million votes have already been counted nationally, but it's very, very early in the process. If you want to get all these numbers in real time right now, go to CNN.com. A lot of information there. You can plug in the contests that are of most and greatest interest to you, and you can be updated constantly throughout this night. We'll take a quick break. We'll continue our coverage from the CNN Election Center right after this. Election night in America, and we're here at the CNN Election Center. We want to welcome back our viewers in the United States and around the world. Let's update you on what we know. These are real numbers coming in to the CNN Election Center in Florida, key battleground state. All the polls aren't even closed in Florida yet. They'll be closing at the top of the hour in the western part of the state. But right now, 4% of the precincts have already reported in. As you can see, Senator Obama ahead 55% to 45%. He's ahead by 143,000 votes so far. North Carolina, under 1% of the precincts reporting. Senator Obama slightly ahead there. It's very, very early in North Carolina, 50% to 49%, 15 electoral votes at stake there. In Indiana, significant number of precincts already have reported 21%, and Senator McCain slightly ahead, 51% to 48%. He's ahead by 16,239 votes, 11 electoral votes in Indiana. And in Georgia, only 1% of the precincts have reported. Senator McCain has 70% so far to Senator Obama's 29%. We're watching Georgia closely. It has 15 electoral votes. I want to go to Suzanne Malveaux. She's in Chicago at Grant Park. She's standing by. Let's go to Suzanne. Suzanne, you got a crowd over there. These are pretty excited folks. Set the scene for us. What's going on?
Absolutely, Wolf. They are actually listening to our broadcast here.
Suzanne, it was a brilliant live shot. Unfortunately, we couldn't hear a word you were saying. That crowd around you is so powerful. Maybe we could get a handheld mic for Suzanne Malveaux, because I really want to hear what's going on. But unfortunately, that crowd is so enthusiastic. You really can't blame them. They sense that maybe history will be made tonight. Suzanne, stand by. We're going to get you a better microphone so we can hear what you're saying in Grant Park in Chicago. You see the folks there. They've gathered, and they're pretty excited. But you can't compete with that level of noise, no matter how loud a voice you have. Suzanne, stand by for that. Anderson, I've got a pretty powerful voice. I don't think I could compete with that.
We've all done live shots where you have like 10 people behind you, like doing that, but they have a crowd of like thousands of people behind them who are watching her on TV, and so everybody is doing it. It makes the hologram all that more effective.
She was brilliant, wasn't she?
She was very good. I thought what she said, from what I could tell by the reading of her lips.
Great suit.
Yes, but that's it shows the benefit of the hologram, though. You don't have any of those crowds. We'll try to beam maybe Suzanne in a little bit. In terms of what the crowds, though, are going to be watching for tonight, what should viewers be anticipating in the next, I mean, it's now 10 to 8. What should we be anticipating the next half hour, an hour? I mean, when do you think we're going to get some real numbers?
I think we'll get Virginia. Virginia's been pretty good about reporting pretty early, Anderson. And, of course, Ohio is another big state. I mean, this is a true toss-up. We've talked about Indiana being a toss-up, Ohio a toss-up.
Should also point out the polls close in Pennsylvania in about 10 minutes from now at 8 o'clock.
Right.
Pennsylvania, the McCain campaign, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, David, they have been saying they have to win in Pennsylvania.
It's a must-win for them. There's so many ways Obama gets the 270 if Obama wins Pennsylvania. And we do know that there was some closing there, but it was still about a 7-point race, 5-point race coming into the final day. So it would be an upset for McCain to win Pennsylvania, but if he doesn't win Pennsylvania, it's very, very hard to say.
Bill Bennett, do you believe these polls? I mean, when you hear it was 7 points in Pennsylvania, you don't buy it.
I don't believe them. We'll see. I mean, but we're waiting. You're asking when we'll know. I don't know, but my feeling is pretty soon, and then it's going to flow fast. I think we're going to know a lot pretty soon. We're going to know 3 or 4 or 5 states, but I don't buy them. And I've asked the same question you've asked about the exit polls, but.
Why buy them?
Why even bother?
So many caveats, you know, that and they're tricky because everybody wants to jump to a conclusion.
Well, I mean, you look at the exit polls in New Hampshire during the primaries. I mean, first of all, you look at the polls before New Hampshire. Barack Obama was supposed to walk away with it. You look at the exit polls. Barack Obama was in the lead. Hillary Clinton won.
But actually, New Hampshire, if you look at the polls indicated New Hampshire, what Obama eventually got, the polls showed that. What John Edwards eventually got, the polls showed that. What the polls do not take into account, all of a sudden an explosive number of voters, and it does not account for people deciding on the day of.
We stopped polling in New Hampshire 4 days before the primary and before Hillary Clinton had her nomination.
One thing that was consistent throughout the primaries was that Obama did better in the exit polls than he did with the voters. And I think that's an important...
What does that tell you?
Late breakers.
I don't know what it tells me, but I have a theory.
It tells you that the Bradley effect seemed to have died earlier. That, in other words, the Bradley effect said that the black candidate would do worse in the actual voting than he would do in the last polls. And in the primaries this year, Barack Obama actually came out about 3.3% higher on average across all the states.
Polls, he did worse.
Oh, the exit polls are strange. I think Bill Bennett put it exactly right. How do we figure out if these exit polls are off 3 or 4 or 5 points, as they were with John Kerry? What is it we're looking at?
Well, some pollsters say that his supporters, Barack Obama's supporters, are so enthusiastic and younger, and they're more willing to stop and talk to somebody after they've voted.
Again, it all just makes the exit polls seem. But most importantly, though, what we are looking at now is real numbers.
Yes.
We've got real numbers from 7 o'clock, from 7:30. In about 7 minutes from now, we're going to have real numbers from Mississippi, Missouri, New Hampshire, Florida, Pennsylvania. The polls will be closing in all those states. Our coverage continues. A lot more ahead. A very exciting night ahead. Also, check out CNN.com for all the latest political news and get the numbers as we get them. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the CNN Election Center. We're getting close to the top of the hour. Anderson, 15 states and the District of Columbia, they'll be closing their polls in a few moments.
And a fascinating state to watch, of course, Pennsylvania, a state which the McCain campaign has said they have to win.
And it's a Democratic state, but they've made an enormous effort in Pennsylvania to see what they can do. Let's walk over and see the states that are closing in 6 minutes and a few seconds. Alabama, Connecticut, Delaware, the District of Columbia, Florida, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Mississippi, Missouri, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, and Tennessee. These states closing in about 6 minutes. We'll see what we can project at the top of the hour. Pennsylvania, I don't think we can stress that too much, Campbell and John. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens there, because almost everyone says if John McCain can't carry Pennsylvania, he'll have a tough challenge ahead of him.
One to keep a very close eye on, but Wolf, we want to mention we are getting some interesting numbers. If you look a little bit deeper at some of the states from earlier, Indiana and Florida, John has been looking at, and again, we should say always the caveat here is that this information is so early yet. But there's some interesting trends, especially if you compare it to 2004. Look at Indiana.
Early, but some is telling. And you notice we're filling in more. We're up to 26% in the state of Indiana now. We were at 12 last time we talked. So the results are starting to come in. And some of it is pretty telling. Number one, Indianapolis, you expect Barack Obama to do well here. There is a small but significant African-American community in the city of Indianapolis, 56 to 43%. I want to go back in time 4 years ago just to double check that against how John Kerry did in Indianapolis, 51 to 49. So right now, Barack Obama is running ahead of where John Kerry ran in Indianapolis. That's one way a Democrat can be competitive. Now, let's come back to 2008 and look at some of these other counties. Again, this is a huge Democratic area up here. We have absolutely nothing so far in Gary and Hammond and Lake County, right up along the Chicago suburbs. That's one place. This is a conservative Democratic area down here. That's a place you want to watch. But, Campbell, one of the things you look at are the margins within the conservative counties, and I'm just going to hit one randomly. And I'm going to say here in, I'm not even going to try that one, Kosciuszko County is 1.2% of the population. Look at this, 66% right now for McCain, 33% for Barack Obama. That's a big McCain lead in that county. Well, let's go back in time and just see. How did the Democrat run in that county last time? 21%. So Barack Obama is running ahead of where Kerry ran in these rural areas. Noble County, you come back over, 69 for Bush, 30% for Kerry. Let's come back in time here. Fast forward in 08.
Wow.
And again, Barack Obama is running ahead of where John Kerry ran in the rural areas. And so Barack Obama is not going to win most of these counties out in rural Indiana. But right now, looking at the early results, he's running well ahead of John Kerry, which is critical. Keep the Republican margins down out in the rural areas and then run up the numbers in Indianapolis, which at the moment he is doing. Another key area, college campus is huge for Barack Obama. South Bend, Indiana. We know it is there, the University of Notre Dame.
Right.
It's a Catholic county, St. Joseph County there. Barack Obama right now running ahead of John McCain there significantly, and 82% of the vote is in here. So this is almost done here. 59% for Barack Obama in this county. One more check back in time, and you see George W. Bush carried this county 4 years ago by a narrow margin, but Barack Obama, again, outperforming John Kerry, and in some of these counties, even outperforming George W. Bush. Still a long way to go as we watch that. But at the moment, if you're the Obama campaign, even though at the moment McCain is leading in the state, if you're the Obama campaign right now, you are very encouraged.
And a lot to keep an eye on here in Gary, as you said, which is generally Democratic in Evansville. We got a projection, so let's throw it back to Wolf, and we'll come back and do Florida in a minute. Wolf?
All right, Campbell, here we go. CNN now projects that South Carolina and its 8 electoral votes will go to Senator McCain, even though he's down with 1% of the precincts reporting. Based on the information that we have, the exit polls, as well as other information coming into the CNN Election Center, John McCain, as expected, will carry South Carolina and its 8 electoral votes. That, as I said, was fully expected. We're getting ready, by the way, the top of the hour. Several states are going to be closing, 15 states and the District of Columbia. Here's what we have right now. If we add up the red states, Kentucky and South Carolina, that adds up to 16 electoral votes so far for John McCain. Vermont up in New England has 3 electoral votes. We've projected it will be going for Barack Obama. Those yellow states are still up in the air. We don't have enough information to make a projection in those states right now. There you see the states that will be closing in 2 minutes and 4 seconds. We will have projections at the top of the hour in 2 minutes in these states. 15 states and the District of Columbia at 8 p.m. Eastern will be closing, and we'll be watching very closely to see what's going on. Anderson, you know, as we wait another minute or so before the polls close in these 15 states in D.C., I think all of us are going to be looking forward to seeing what we can do and what we can say about Pennsylvania.
Yeah, as we said before many times, the McCain campaign says they have to win the state of Pennsylvania. Jeff Toobin, if you can, try to explain to our viewers, you know, we just saw South Carolina. We're calling for John McCain, even though on our board, with 1% of the votes in, McCain is down to Barack Obama. How is it that we can project a winner in South Carolina?
Well, our exit polls cover the whole state, and we know the history of the whole state. And when there is such a substantial margin in the exit polls, that we are confident that when all the votes come in, one candidate will be ahead, then we feel comfortable making a call. But the key point is we never make a projection in a state that is remotely close if all we have is exit polls.
So
we wait for the
votes. It's not a surprise that John McCain would win in South Carolina.
Exactly. It was not a competitive campaign in that. We will never make a projection in a state based on exit polls if it's at all likely to be
under
close.
a minute until polls close.
Sure, what you're looking for to see the actual vote in 2 or 3 places actually seem to confirm what you're getting in your exit poll. Is there, if they're close together and it's a landslide, then you can go ahead and call it. But if it's fairly close, as Jeff said, even if you get some numbers, you want to wait and with an abundance of caution. You know, CBS had called for example, South Carolina just a bit ago. And I think CNN waited and was patient. And there's always this question in every news organization how to do this.
Got polls closing in just a matter of...
Polls, 171 electoral votes at stake. And CNN can project winners in several of those states. In fact, 8 of those states we project will go for Barack Obama. Take a look at this. We project that Senator Obama will carry the state of Massachusetts with 12 electoral votes. That's fully expected. We also project that Senator Obama will carry his home state of Illinois, 21 electoral votes, fully expected. Connecticut will go for Barack Obama, 7 electoral votes. New Jersey, as expected, will go for Barack Obama, and it's 15 electoral votes. New Jersey, widely expected. Maine, there are 4 electoral votes. We're projecting that 3 of those 4 electoral votes in the state of Maine will go for Barack Obama. Maine, one of 2 states that could divide up their electoral votes. Nebraska, the other state that divides up. All the others are winner take all. In Delaware, we project that Barack Obama will carry Joe Biden's home state, 3 electoral votes in Delaware. In Maryland, 10 electoral votes. Barack Obama will carry Maryland. And finally, the District of Columbia, and 3 electoral votes. Barack Obama takes Washington, D.C. We project that John McCain will carry 2 states so far that have just closed, Oklahoma, and it's 7 electoral votes. Oklahoma going for John McCain, and Tennessee, 11 electoral votes going for John McCain. We project those 2 states. Now, there are 6 states that have just closed their polls. We cannot make any projection in right now. Those states are Alabama, Florida, Mississippi, Missouri, New Hampshire, and Pennsylvania. Florida, Missouri, New Hampshire to a certain degree, and Pennsylvania, those all are considered battleground states. We don't have enough information yet to make a projection in those 6 states. But based on what we have projected so far, right now, Senator Obama is ahead with 77 electoral votes. The blue states are his, 34 for John McCain. The red states are his. The yellow states, the polls have closed in those states, but we have not yet been able to make a projection in those states. We're getting more information over at Voter Analysis, and I want to go to Soledad O'Brien and Bill Schneider because they're going through the exit polls to help us better appreciate what is going on in the country right now. Soledad?
All right, Wolf, let's take a closer look then at South Carolina. Very interesting there. A couple of interesting categories to look at. So first, South Carolina.
Okay, let us go to South Carolina, which is red here because it has gone for John McCain. Now, take a look at African-American voters in South Carolina. They were 26. They were about a quarter of the vote, almost unanimously, 96% for Barack Obama. That, of course, was expected. On the other side, you have white voters who voted for John McCain. Where are the white? There they are. White voters. This is quite a phenomenal showing. McCain got 71% of the white vote in South Carolina, and where he especially did well were white evangelical born-again voters who were no less than 39% of the voters in South Carolina. They voted a solid 84% for John McCain, which is better than George Bush did nationally in the last election.
So this picture here, these graphs in a nutshell, why John McCain was able to walk away with South Carolina. Wolf?
Soledad, thanks very much. And as we continue to watch what's going on, let me just recap what we know so far. Of the states that we have made projections on, Senator Obama right now with 77 electoral votes to 34 for John McCain. Remember, 270 is the magic number. You need 270 electoral votes to be elected president of the United States. So right now, just after 8 p.m. on the East Coast, Senator Obama has an advantage, but it's still very, very early in this night. Let's take a look once again. I'll update you on the poll numbers, on the election results that are actually coming in. These are real ballots, not exit polls. In Florida right now, with 15% of the precincts having already reported Senator Obama maintaining his advantage, 55% to 44%. It's just changed, actually, 55%, 45%. He has a 316,150 advantage over Senator McCain in Florida. Virginia right now, almost 20% of the precincts have reported, 56% for McCain, 43% for Obama. He's ahead by 66,000, McCain, in Virginia. And in North Carolina, about 2% of the precincts have now reported very early, 62% for Obama, 38% for McCain. Very, very early in North Carolina. That's a battleground state with its 15 electoral votes. So it's shaping up. It's still very, very early. We're watching it closely, Campbell and John. But you know what? We'll do it the old-fashioned way. We'll let the votes come in.
Oh, old-fashioned. Wolf, what's wrong with you? Let me ask you. We know we're being conservative here, but we've all been talking about Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania closed. Why? Show us quickly why we haven't called Pennsylvania yet.
Because we don't have any votes. There is a wide outline of the state of Pennsylvania. And Campbell, we could go back in the primaries. There are a couple of examples. Missouri comes to mind as one of them, where others, there are competitors. We love them dearly. We're not on a limb and made calls that turned out to be wrong. We're not going to do that here. We're just going to be extra conservative and count the votes. We know what the exit poll says. People have seen the public polls. You can guess at home if you want, or but we're going to be conservative. We're going to count the votes.
I'm all for that. Okay, now let's look at two states, because I know we've got additional information in some of the counties, Indiana and Virginia.
I want to go into Virginia first. We'll look at Virginia here, and it's starting to fill in, and you see a lot of red here, and you see Senator McCain running ahead right now. Only 20% of the vote in. Couple key things. Number one, this is a key battleground area. I'm going to turn this up and stretch this out a little bit. This is a key battleground area down here in southeast Virginia. You have Christian conservative area in Chesapeake, also in Norfolk, a military community, naval bases, key to Senator McCain. Also, though, in Norfolk and Hampton Roads, a significant African-American population. This is a battleground in southeast Virginia. We have no votes. That's why it's white there. I want to come back up here. We also have very few votes up here in the Washington suburbs, and this is ground zero for the state of Virginia because of the fast growth of the Washington suburbs and the more Democratic leaning over the past 10 years of the Washington suburbs. So not much in there yet. So if you're the Obama campaign, you see these early numbers and you're saying, let's wait and see what happens more up in the state. I do want to show you something. We just showed this in Indiana. I want to show it again in Virginia because we're beginning to see a pattern state by state, and we can go to Florida and see it as well. I'm going to randomly pick a county. I didn't know where I was going. We're going to Louisa County in central Virginia, and you see John McCain getting 57% of the vote with 36% of the vote in. Here's what I'm doing, Campbell. I'm just going back in time and testing a trend because we're seeing this everywhere. I'm going to go back to 04, 59-40. That one's not so bad. That is more comparative, pretty close to 4 years ago. Let's come fast forward again, and let's pick another one in another part of the state to see if John McCain, the reason I'm doing this, to see if John McCain is running as strong as George W. Bush in some of the critical areas. You come down here along the North Carolina border, Halifax County, McCain 52, Obama 47, 91% of the vote in. So we're close to a full county here. Let's go back in time. Again, not much population there. We just want to see the trend then and now. Let's go back 4 years ago. McCain has 52 now. George W. Bush 4 years ago, 57. So he's underperforming. That's not as dramatic as we saw in Indiana, but
you're seeing that across the board.
John McCain cannot afford to underperform George W. Bush in rural Virginia because what we expect to happen in the Washington suburbs, what we expect to happen in the African-American community in Richmond and down here in Norfolk, John McCain has to at least equal George W. Bush in the rural parts of the state.
He needs to be overperforming in those areas to compensate for the growth up in northern
That's what your hunch would tell you. He has to at least match up, but the way Northern Virginia is trending Democratic, if he's going to hold it, he has to hold everything Bush did, and we're seeing this increasingly. I'm going to come down to Florida. This is 2004. I'm going to come right here. I'm going to bring Orlando out. This is 2004. This is a big and growing county. Independence. This is a swing area in Florida, which is why Kerry Bush 50-50, right? Okay, let's come forward now to 2008. This is what we see so far in Orlando, 77% in, Obama 60, McCain 39. If numbers like that continue to hold, and again, 20% statewide, everybody take a deep breath, break out the pretzels. We're going to have to let the count come in here.
But this is the I-4 corridor, too, which is the deciding.
This is the money. In Florida, this is the money. This is where, in a close race, it is decided right here. And again, 20% statewide, but watch all this blue. And I'm going to go back 4 years ago. Remember, you see blue over here in St. Pete. You see Orlando and in the central Florida area. Excuse me for stepping across, but we're going to go back in time now to 4 years ago. Remember all that blue? Well, there's a lot of red. And if Barack Obama continues to hold those counties right in here, and if McCain continues to underperform the Bush numbers, you can see where the night's going.
Demographic changes here, too, a big factor?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is one of the areas, and we can show you that, actually. Let's come up to the demographics here. We can show you that it's a little more difficult to see here, but this is an area where we see, the more you see the colors is the more intensity of something. You're beginning to get a larger Hispanic population up here in the I-4 corridor. You also have registration changes, Campbell. Used to be more Republicans. Now there are more independents. Democratic registration is up. Independent registration is up. Republican registration is down. This is the swing area in Florida. I want to turn that off and come back to where we are. If a lot of this is blue at the end of the night, Barack Obama has a pretty good chance of winning Florida. George Bush turned it red 4 years ago. This is a critical battleground.
All right. Do we have time? Let's go to Indiana real quick and get your read there, because I know we've got a few more counties in Indiana, and it's that same trend, comparing it to 2004.
This is filling in, and you see a very competitive race right now. McCain ahead, 32%, so we got about a third of the vote in. We have a long way to go. But again, if you look at it, remember what we said before. This, we know, will be a pretty Democratic area. It's not in yet. This is a college campus area right here. It's not in yet. Turn off the telestrator so I can bring this out. This is a college area. It's not in yet. You move over here. Obama's running pretty well in these rural counties. And key, again, let's just pick one out of the blue. We're going to go. We came there before. Let's try another one over here, and let's come up here to the corner. Steuben County, only 0.5% of the population. McCain's getting 54% of the vote. Let's go back in time. Compare him to George W. Bush in Steuben County.
Wow.
Bush getting 65% of the vote. Everywhere we look, almost everywhere anyway, McCain is underperforming Bush, which is a problem.
A bad sign for McCain in Indiana. We'll keep an eye on it. Still, as you mentioned before, John, still only 33% total, I think, for the state of Indiana reporting. So a lot more ahead. Wolf, let's go back to you.
All right, guys, thanks very much. I want to show our viewers what's going on. First of all, in Chicago, this is Grant Park. You're looking at these live pictures. Thousands and thousands of people have shown up there. Eventually, they anticipate that Barack Obama will be speaking there at some point down the road. That's where they've gathered. And out in Phoenix, there you see the ballroom at the Biltmore Hotel. Senator McCain eventually will be speaking there. They're getting ready for that. They're in Phoenix in the ballroom at a beautiful hotel, the Biltmore Hotel. I want to go back to Grant Park in Chicago right now. Suzanne Malveaux is our reporter there. She's right in the middle of that crowd. Suzanne, we got a better microphone for you this time. Hopefully we'll hear what you're saying, because you have a very enthusiastic crowd, and they're going to be screaming no matter what you say.
Wolf, I'm going to try this again. Hopefully you'll be able to hear me, but they're watching CNN. They're listening to CNN, so they are very, very excited. We expect about 70,000 people to be here in Grant Park. I want to give you a quick overview here. You've got the crowds gathered here. You've got hundreds and hundreds of cameras of media from around the world covering and watching this particular event. If you go over behind me, you'll also see the podium. That is where Barack Obama will be speaking. It's in front of 25 flags and glass plates to protect him, unprecedented security. And then, of course, you see the monitors in the background watching themselves, watching the excitement, the anticipation, Wolf. You can't believe they're not waiting for the results. They are already starting the party here in Grant Park. And I'm telling you, it's not just here. They're expecting 500,000 to 1 million folks along the lakeside. It has already started here, Wolf.
All right, it's very exciting. We heard every word that you said, Suzanne. I love those microphones. We were using those at the conventions, and our viewers not only can see us, they can hear us as well. That's really important. Suzanne Malveaux will be getting back to you. I want to go to Dana Bash right now. She's over at the Biltmore Hotel in Phoenix, Arizona. There you are, Dana. You got a nice microphone. Tell us what's going on where you are.
Well, a very, very different kind of atmosphere here at the Biltmore. But you know what? This was not planned to be anything close to what you're seeing from Suzanne and from Camp Obama in Grant Park there in Chicago. People are starting to gather in this relatively small ballroom here. They are watching the returns as well. Every time they have seen one of those solidly red states so far go for McCain, there have been wild cheers here. But what's going to happen is at some point, the people who are here are going to move outside to a great lawn, and that is where John McCain is going to address his supporters here in Arizona. And I got to tell you, in terms of the mood, again, talking to advisors who are here, they're monitoring everything that they can in terms of numbers that are coming in. And it hasn't changed much. It is still stoic. It is still realistic. And they are trying to sort of keep their chin up and realize over and over and over, they tell us, this is a very difficult year for any Republican, and they say that there will be time for postmortems in the future, but right now they say they're just going to keep their fingers crossed that John McCain can do what he has done many times before, which is pull off a big surprise. But again, I think realism is probably the best word to use to describe Camp McCain right now.
Good word, and they're applauding. They're not applauding Dana Bash. The Phoenix Boys Choir behind her, they're applauding. They did a nice job. We can hear them in the background during your report, Dana. We're going to be getting back to you soon. All right, Dana Bash is in Phoenix. Suzanne Malveaux is in Chicago. Let's update you on what we know right now. Here are the votes as they're coming in, with all these states now having closed. In Ohio, less than 1% of the precincts have reported. Obama ahead 68%, 67% to 32%. But remember, this is very, very early in Ohio. 20 electoral votes at stake. In West Virginia, Obama 56% to McCain's 43%, but once again, less than 1% of the precincts have reported, so it's very early in West Virginia. In Georgia, 4% of the precincts have reported. McCain with 63% to Obama's 36%, very, very early in Georgia, and it's 15 electoral votes. And in New Hampshire, only 5% of the precincts have reported. 57% for Obama, 42% for McCain. New Hampshire has four electoral votes. You want to see all these numbers coming in real time? CNN.com. That's where you can go get a wealth of information. CNN.com. Our coverage will continue from the CNN Election Center right after this. All right, we're back here at the CNN Election Center. By the way, Anderson, Arkansas closes at 8:30, so we'll see what's going on there. But a whole bunch of other states close at 9 p.m. on the East Coast, so the numbers keep on coming in.
And we're still watching some of these key battleground states. Virginia, we're looking at Pennsylvania, Georgia, a lot of places. Florida, we're watching very closely. North Carolina as well. A lot to cover in these next couple of minutes.
Yeah, I want to walk over and update our viewers on what we know right now. Let's go to Florida. Already 30% of the vote of the precincts in Florida have reported, and Senator Obama maintaining an advantage, 53% to 47%. He's up by 251,332 votes. 30% of the precincts, Florida. Critical number of electoral votes, 27 at stake. In North Carolina, another battleground state, right now only 5% of the precincts have reported, 58% for Obama, 41% for McCain, an advantage for Obama, 172,720. But remember, that's early, only 5% of the precincts are in. 35% of the precincts have now reported in Indiana, and McCain maintaining a slight advantage, 51% to 48%. He's up by 37,130, 11 electoral votes in Indiana. And in Virginia, almost 30% of the precincts have now reported in Virginia. Senator McCain maintaining an advantage, 56% in Virginia to 43%, up by 107,000 votes or so, 13 electoral votes at stake in Virginia. Let's bring in David Axelrod right now. He's a senior advisor to Senator Obama. He's joining us from Chicago. David, thanks very much for coming in. What do you think? What's going on from your perspective?
Well, good things, Wolf. I mean, we like what we see around the country. We like the turnout. We like the early returns. We're thrilled that Indiana is competitive. Obviously, Pennsylvania was a key. The McCain people identified Pennsylvania as a must-win state for them to put their 270 together. So, and we're looking forward to the returns from the western states where we think we're going to do really well. Early vote out there was really robust. North Carolina looks interesting. And, you know, I mean, the inspiring thing is that all over this country today, people came out sometimes waiting in long, long lines for hours and hours to participate in this process of changing the direction of the country. And we think at the end of the day that's exactly what we're going to do.
Tell our viewers in the United States, David, and around the world what Senator Obama is doing now, where he is, Michelle Obama, and what we can expect to see them, to hear from them over the next few hours. What's your game plan?
Well, he's home right now with his family. As you may have reported, as you know, he played his traditional basketball game with friends and staff late this afternoon. It's become sort of a tradition and a lucky one for us, so we didn't want to disrupt that. He went home spending quiet time with his family. He's going to come downtown later this evening, and he'll come out and speak. We've got a great crowd in Grant Park, as you know. He's going to speak when we know something and when it's clear. We don't need to. We've waited 2 years, Wolf. We can wait a couple more hours to to draw conclusions.
I know he's superstitious about playing basketball on Election Day. Any other superstitious elements that go on a day like this?
Yeah, well, one superstition is not claiming victory too early. That's a big superstition.
Yeah, that would be bad.
And so that's something that we're not going to do. But no, that's the big one. You know, he carries around some, people give him lucky charms around on rope lines and at town hall meetings and so on, and he's carried those in his pocket through this campaign. But look, I think ultimately this isn't really about luck. It's about whether or not the American people respond to your message and believe that we should move in a new direction. And I think tonight we're beginning to see that that's exactly what this country wants to do.
All of us were deeply saddened yesterday when we learned that his grandmother, his 86-year-old grandmother, passed away. How's he dealing with this enormous loss? We know how much he loved her and what a critical role she played in raising him.
Well, no doubt she played a formative role in his life, and much of who he is as a result of her love and her guidance. But it was not a huge surprise. She had been ill. He had been told that things were grave. That's why he went to Hawaii, you know, toward the end of the campaign, because the doctor said it may well be that she wouldn't make it to the election. And I think yesterday he was feeling very happy that he had done that he had been able to see her, and that meant a lot to him. But of course it's hard, and you know, I think he's been buoyed by the enormous outpouring of people who've sent their good wishes. And yesterday in that crowd, you could sense it. There were tens of thousands of people, and they were all there supporting him through that difficult moment. So, you know, that's some solace right there.
Yeah, I'm sure. Our deepest condolences to him and his family. Is there anything you're seeing, David, right now that is giving you a little heartburn? Any problems out there as far as voter irregularities or surprises that you might not necessarily like?
Well, of course, there are always issues at the polls, Wolf, and we want to make sure that everybody who's been in line gets a chance to vote, and we're making sure that that happens. But if you ask me what's giving me heartburn, it's that I can't exactly figure out what should be giving me heartburn right now, and that's an unusual position to be in, and I'm trying to deal with that, you know. The main thing is just to, you know, we would love to make the clock go faster and get the numbers counted and come to some conclusion, but everything we see at this juncture seems positive to us, and not just positive about the outcome, but positive about the possibility of putting together a new coalition. He's spoken since 2004 about breaking up this red state, blue state paradigm. I think we could possibly do that tonight.
But you haven't unleashed these thousands of lawyers that you have on standby all over the country. That has not been necessary right yet. Is that true?
Well, and there have been places where we've needed to intervene to make sure that there were more voting machines or ballots available. But I don't see any gross irregularities, any pattern of irregularities, just the normal stuff you'd see on an election day, and that's very positive. But we're prepared even now for anything that might arise.
Finally, I just want to show our viewers once again the live pictures. Thousands of people are gathering in Grant Park right now. They're obviously very excited in Chicago along the lakefront there. But at some point later tonight, you anticipate Senator Obama and his family making the move and going over there. That's where he's going to address his supporters. Is that right?
Absolutely, yes. He'll be there, and we're looking forward to it. It's great to be back in our hometown to be with our great supporters. So we're looking forward to that, and we're just asking for a little bit of patience while the votes get counted here.
All right, you've been patient a long time. You can be patient a little bit longer. David Axelrod, thanks very much. We'll be talking. David Axelrod is in Chicago. We're watching all of this unfold. We've got new numbers coming in, more poll closings, getting ready for that. CNN.com is where you can get all the results coming in live. Stay with us. Our special coverage from the CNN Election Center continues after this. CNN can now project that New Hampshire will go for Barack Obama. New Hampshire, this is Obviously very, very painful for Senator McCain because he desperately wanted New Hampshire. That's where he really got going in his bid for the Republican presidential nomination. But based on the exit polls, based on the actual numbers coming in, CNN projects that New Hampshire and its 4 electoral votes will go for Barack Obama. 9% of the precincts have reported. Right now, Senator Obama has 60% of the vote in New Hampshire, 39% for Senator McCain. That's an advantage of 14,397, under 10% of the precincts reporting. As I said, this is the state that Senator McCain really wanted to win. He was very sentimental about all those town hall meetings he did there in jump-starting his campaign early on after Iowa. But New Hampshire will go for Senator Obama. Bill Schneider and Soledad O'Brien are at voter analysis right now at the CNN Election Center. Soledad, what are we seeing?
Why are we giving New Hampshire to Senator Obama? Let's go right to the voter analysis board. A couple of interesting categories which really explain it all. So if you pull up New Hampshire here on our board,
which should be blue.
Okay, and let's take a look first. Highly educated voters, that's always been a good category for Barack Obama.
That's right. Voters with a postgraduate degree, the top of the educational category. This was one of the top groups that delivered for Barack Obama. 70% for Barack Obama. I mean, they are going to New Hampshire. It's a very high-tech state. This is a very big breakthrough for Democrats to do that well with postgraduate educated voters.
Wolf was talking about the dismay that John McCain must feel, especially when he was really targeting those independents. But you see, they're blue here, which means they went for Barack Obama.
That's right. The top groups are the most, whereas Obama had the biggest advantage, and his advantage shrinks a little bit until you get to the middle. Independents, blue, they voted 60% for Barack Obama, 38% for McCain. A big disappointment. They're the fastest growing group in the New Hampshire electorate.
Men was a category that Barack Obama was targeting hard and had to do well in.
And men in most states have voted Republican, but here in New Hampshire, by a slight margin, 52 to 47, they went for John McCain, for Barack Obama over John McCain.
So pretty close there, but everywhere else, as you can see,
blue,
Barack
blue,
Obama,
blue, blue,
a
right?
lot of blue on that map.
Just a few red categories in New Hampshire.
Which means Barack Obama taking New Hampshire. Bill, thank you. Wolf, you can see it right there in the map.
All right, Soledad, thanks very much. I want to take a look at some numbers coming in, ballots coming in some Senate races that we're watching very closely. Let's start in the state of Virginia. We've already projected that Mark Warner, the former Democratic governor of Virginia, will win this contest against the former Republican governor, Jim Gilmore. 59% so far for Warner, 39% for Gilmore. 36% of the precincts in Virginia have reported. This is a pickup because this Warner will replace John Warner, the Republican, no relation, as the next senator from Virginia. In Kentucky right now, with 39% of the precincts reporting, look at how close it is. The Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, with 51%. Bruce Lunsford, the challenger, 49%. Very, very close. We are in no position to make a projection in Kentucky. This is one race that the Democrats have worked very hard to capture. Mitch McConnell fighting for his political life right now. In North Carolina, look at this, 8% of the precincts have reported. Kay Hagan has been challenging Elizabeth Dole, the incumbent Republican. Kay Hagan ahead by 57% to 40%, but only 8% of the precincts are in. Kay Hagan making a very, very strong challenge. Elizabeth Dole fighting for her political life as well. And in New Hampshire, a similar situation. John Sununu is the incumbent Republican. Jeanne Shaheen, the former Democratic governor, popular, very popular. 9% of the precincts have reported. 56% for Jeanne Shaheen. John Sununu, 41%. She's ahead by almost 10,000 right now, with almost 10% of the precincts in. This is a race that we're watching very closely as well. Let's go back to Campbell and John King. I think you're looking at North Carolina right now. Is that right, Campbell?
We're going to look at all of these races because we are getting a little bit of more information as we look more closely at the counties. And we're not calling any of them, as you mentioned yet, Wolf, except for the Mark Warner win in Virginia. But let's take a look at North Carolina.
North Carolina, you see it. The red is the counties filling in for Senator Dole. The blue, the county's filling in for her challenger, Kay Hagan. This is one of the key counties in the state of North Carolina. Mecklenburg County, it's almost 9% of the state population. African-American population there, but also, Campbell, the banking community that's been a lot of trouble there because of the financial meltdown. Wachovia Bank headquartered right there. A lot of economic issues there. Senator Dole is at the moment not performing as strongly as she needs to in Mecklenburg County. You come out here to the more Democratic counties and Hagen running. These are early results. Well, these counties, 72% out here. If the Democrat is winning out here, then the Democrat's in pretty good shape. But we'll watch the rest of these results as we come in. I want to go north to this. This race is a blowout, but I want to show something here. This is the state of Virginia. Right. This was a Republican state not all that long ago. Look what Mark Warner is doing to former governor Jim Gilmore. Jim Gilmore is not a nobody candidate. He was a former governor of this state in the past decade, and this is a blowout. The Republican Party in the state of Virginia is going to be having a long talk with itself about what to do next.
Bodes well for Obama in Virginia.
Certainly
as we
does.
Wait for those numbers
Certainly
as well.
does. Now, Warner has his own personal popularity because Mark Warner left as such a popular governor, but the Republican Party of Virginia has a long, many months ahead trying to figure out what happened there. This is New Hampshire, Campbell. 10% of the vote in. Jeanne Shaheen, the former governor there. This is another battle of heavyweights among Senate candidates. A former governor against an incumbent senator who is the son of a former governor and the former White House chief of staff. This looks kind of bleak. You say there's not much vote in, but most of the people live here. And actually, most of them live even further south. Concord, the capital, most of them live here. Let's stretch this out a little bit and look. Many of you might be familiar with this area from the Democratic primary. This is Manchester, almost 9% of the population. And this is what Jeanne Shaheen needs to win. She's running very well in this blue-collar area. This is where Hillary Clinton beat Barack Obama in the Democratic primaries. It's where the people live. You want to get them there. And one other key place is out here on the coast, Portsmouth, Democratic town out right near the coast of New Hampshire, and Jeanne Shaheen running well ahead there with about 40% of the vote in there. So the early numbers suggest the Democrats are in for a strong night in New Hampshire. We will watch because this part of the state, more rural, right. Sununu will do well up in here. The question is down here where the people live, and one of the places we haven't seen anything yet is Nashua. That's another big city in the state of New Hampshire.
Let's take a quick look at Kentucky, because this one, as Wolf pointed out, is still way, way too close to call. But this is a crucial seat. Mitch McConnell trying to hold on to a seat here.
He is the leader of Senate Republicans, and in a year when you know the President of the United States is largely being repudiated by the vote happening tonight. John McCain is in a very tough race, and let's assume for the sake of the argument it's a long way to go, but if McCain loses, who is the leader of the Republican Party? Well, Mitch McConnell, the Senate leader, is one of the highest-ranking Republicans in the country right now, and as you can see, he is in quite a race here. Let me erase this so you can see the numbers more clearly. This is one of these races, Obama put some money in the state. The Democrats put some money in the state because they would like to beat Mitch McConnell. It's also a place, though, where the leadership supported that financial bailout. Right. That was the thing the leadership had to do, but some voters didn't like it. In many places, you do see a bit of a backlash for people wanting to blame somebody for what has happened to their 401ks and everything else, and the uncertainty in the banking community, the uncertainty in the economy. If you're an incumbent, especially a Republican incumbent on the ballot who supported that, you're having a tougher race. And this is an interesting map when you look at it filling in. The Democrat is doing well where he needs to. Out here, when you start getting out into these rural counties, Democrats putting up some respectable numbers. We're going to be watching this one for a while. Mitch McConnell, the Senate Republican leader. If he were to lose tonight, then we would have a Democratic wave.
Right. Still early. Again, the only race we've called is Mark Warner in Virginia. But as you said, things looking very good for Democrats right now in terms of the balance of power. Wolf?
Guys, thanks very much. Let me update you on these votes that are actually coming in from these battleground states, including in Florida. Almost 40% of the precincts have now reported in Florida, and Senator Obama continues to maintain his advantage, 52% to 48%. He's up by 178,000 votes in Florida. 39% of the precincts have reported. We'll walk down to North Carolina right now. 12% of the precincts have reported. Senator Obama ahead here as well, 56% to 44%. Ahead by 166,598. In Pennsylvania, it's still very, very early. The numbers are coming in slowly, but they'll pick up very, very quickly. The polls closed there at 8 p.m. on the East Coast. Less than 1% are in. Only about 12,000 votes have been counted so far. 65% for Obama, 34% for McCain, a difference of 3,900. In Texas, the polls won't all, in the entire state, won't all be closed until the top of the hour, 9 p.m. Eastern. But about 3 million votes have already been counted in Texas. 51% so far for McCain, 49% for Obama, but only 1% of the precincts in Texas have been counted. We're going to continue our coverage, but first we have a projection. And this is a big one. CNN now projects Pennsylvania and its 21 electoral votes will be going for Senator Obama. This is a projection that the Obama camp desperately wanted, and the McCain camp desperately tried to secure Pennsylvania. It's a very, very important win. Even though Pennsylvania usually goes Democratic, Senator McCain made a major effort over these past several months to try to win Pennsylvania. But unfortunately for Senator McCain, it wasn't to be. These are live pictures you're seeing from Grant Park in Chicago. They're watching us on the big screen there, and they can see. They must be very excited. Those are Barack Obama supporters. With Pennsylvania, we project now going for Senator Obama. This is a state that they fought fiercely over these past several weeks. Senator McCain a few weeks ago gave up on Michigan, not that far away. It was in Pennsylvania that he made a major, major effort going from the east part to the west part, north and south Pennsylvania. But Barack Obama will go forward and win this state. Candy Crowley is over at Grant Park in Chicago watching this. Candy, they must be thrilled because this is a huge, huge projected win for Senator Obama.
And what's really interesting is they know that. The fact of the matter is we have talked a lot about Pennsylvania, as you mentioned. It has been a Democratic state for some time, but John McCain put so much of his last-minute time and so much of those precious dollars into Pennsylvania, and this is a crowd that knows that. I mean, that's how closely people have been watching this race. I have been amazed from state to state to state how many people understood the whole process, knew which states were important, understood where John McCain had to win, where Barack Obama was doing well. I mean, the specificity of the knowledge of some of these voters has been amazing. I think we've seen that, obviously, in our coverage and our numbers, and I see it out here on a daily basis, how really in tune these voters are, and that's, I think, what you're seeing here, because Pennsylvania got the biggest applause of all as you've been going through these states, calling them for either Obama or McCain. And clearly, inside Obama headquarters, although they expected this win in Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania wasn't even on Obama's itinerary in the final days rolling up. He was totally in those Republican states. So they were pretty confident about Pennsylvania, but this just obviously reinforces that confidence, Wolf.
All right, Candy, stand by. I want to go out to, I want to show our viewers, first of all, Times Square. We've got cameras there. A lot of folks have gathered in Times Square here in New York. They're watching the CNN monitors there. There you can see them. They see themselves on television, so they're obviously excited. But a huge crowd has gathered at Times Square. The Obama supporters there are no doubt very excited that we have now projected Pennsylvania going for Senator Barack Obama. Let's get some feedback on how the McCain campaign might be reacting to all of this. Dana Bash is over at the Biltmore Hotel in Phoenix, Arizona. We can't stress how important Pennsylvania was seen by both of these campaigns. Dana, walk us through this loss for the McCain campaign, what it might mean.
It means a lot. It is a big loss, and Candy just laid it out from the Obama campaign's point of view. But from John McCain's point of view, we spent both days of the last weekend there. He was there several days last week. He deployed his running mate, Sarah Palin, to that state because they, particularly in the last couple of weeks, put everything into trying to turn that blue state, the state that has been blue for 20 years, red. They knew it was an uphill climb. They have said over the past week or so that their internal numbers did see that it was closing a little bit. Public polling, I think, did reflect that as well. But look, I mean, I just got a reaction from somebody who was here when we got the news and told them, they said the reality is they're not that surprised, and now what they're doing is they're focusing on the state of Virginia. McCain aides here tell me that that is really the next thing to watch, to be honest, to see how early this thing is going to be called, and perhaps how early we're going to see John McCain come out.
Well, we're going to watch it closely. You're at the Arizona Biltmore Hotel, and at some point later tonight, Dana, we'll be hearing from Senator McCain there, just as we'll be hearing from Senator Obama at Grant Park in Chicago. A bunch of states are getting ready to close their polls at the top of the hour. We'll update you on what we know. Stay with us. CNN.com. You can see all the results coming in live. Our coverage continues after this. It's election night in America right now. Take a look at this, Anderson. You can see the map behind us. We've projected so far 102 electoral votes for Senator Obama, 34 for Senator McCain. Pennsylvania That's the big one just now.
We just projected Barack Obama the winner in Pennsylvania. Devastating for the McCain campaign all along. They have said they had to win in Pennsylvania. Let's talk to our panel a little bit, find out what they think all of this means. Gloria Borger, for Barack Obama, Pennsylvania was a turning point in the primaries.
Yeah, Pennsylvania's been a very, very important state to him. In the primaries, which he lost to Hillary Clinton, when you talk to the Obama people, they said, look, we got together after that moment when we lost. A couple of top aides went to Obama's house that evening. He decided to take ownership of the campaign. After the loss in Pennsylvania, they started holding nightly conference calls with top advisors, which Obama runs up until, yesterday for 5 or 10 minutes each night. They understood that loss in Pennsylvania. They understood how Hillary Clinton beat them in Pennsylvania, and they knew they had a lot of ground
That was then. This is now. Tonight it's a win for Obama.
Huge.
Is there still a path forward for John McCain?
Hard to see one. I think we know two things now, Anderson. One is that victory is almost within the grasp of Barack Obama. We'll have to wait for a little more. But I think it's also very interesting what John King has been reporting on the county by county and how many instances, Orlando being the most important, that Obama is doing so much better than John Kerry did 4 years ago, and McCain is doing worse than Bush. That suggests this could be a very big night for Obama. Not just a win, but a very big win. We need more information.
Bill Bennett, do you see a path forward for John McCain?
Not much. Extremely difficult. If I heard correctly, CNN has called both New Hampshire and Pennsylvania. That really closes off a lot. And given what John King is saying about these counties in Florida, very difficult to do it from here.
And for the Democratic National Convention, a white male labor leader pulled me aside. He said that we are going to our members and saying, look, African Americans have been behind us, supporting our candidates, and we're going to get in the face of our fellow brothers and say, we're going to back this Democrat, and he's an African American. For them to send 15,000 labor members into that state, for them to call them, and anybody who was wishy-washy, that would send somebody directly to their home, they understood between the strategy of the Obama campaign and the union support, they needed to confront what they thought was a serious problem, and that is ambivalence about voting for Obama. Great strategy, and I think concert between their strategy and union, it certainly paid off with this victory.
And remember how much time we spent discussing whether Hillary Clinton's voters would back Barack Obama.
Exactly.
We
That
saw
was like
polls.
4 years ago we were talking about
It was
that.
about 4 years ago, yes. But I mean, we saw polls that said half of them wouldn't vote for Barack Obama, and we are going to see close to 100% of Hillary Clinton's voters. And part of that is due to Hillary Clinton, who has campaigned like an absolute soldier for Barack Obama. And I think that is a significant
But
message
isn't
of
going to
tonight,
win those
too.
rural voters over that he lost to Hillary Clinton?
I want to bring back in
the
our
state of
other
Pennsylvania.
panelists over here. James Carville, what do you see on the map right now? What are you looking at? Do you see a path forward for John McCain tonight?
No, obviously there's not a path that he can win. I'm looking at these Virginia returns, and I can't, I don't have a conclusion to draw there. I think the Kentucky Senate is going to be very difficult for the Democrats to win.
Mitch
I think
McConnell versus Lunsford.
Right. I think Mitch McConnell's looking pretty good now because of the Eastern time zone in the 1st and 2nd congressional districts in the Western time zone. These are more Republican districts.
Last I saw, though, for that, it was 50-50.
Right, but you'd have to do, my sense is, in talking to people on the ground in Kentucky, that the Democrat would have to do better than 50-50. The state has two separate time zones. They have to be doing a little bit better.
If Mitch McConnell is able to hold on to his seat, does that deny the Democrats from being able to reach 60 seats?
Georgia becomes very much in play, and people from Georgia tell me that Martin is outperforming typical Democratic numbers. It could be a runoff. We could be faced with a situation. I'm not saying this for sure.
There's an independent candidate.
There's an independent candidate, and Georgia has a runoff provision. If you don't get to 49%, you have an election.
So we may not know until, I think, December 2nd is the runoff.
That's a possible scenario here. I don't want to say it's likely, but it's very possible. And like Columbia County, other places, people are telling me that Martin is running pretty good for a Democrat.
But very similar to what happened actually last election in your home state of Louisiana. When George Bush won, there was a runoff there, and they basically voted for a Democrat to keep a check on the Republican president, George Bush. A month from now, Barack Obama won't be on the ballot. It might not be as advantageous for a Democrat. It may actually be it actually augurs well for the Republican, I think, in that situation.
Paul, what do you say?
I want to come back to Pennsylvania for a minute. This is a state.
I knew you would.
I know. I love that state. I've done a lot of work there. Hillary won by 10 points. She crushed Barack there. This is where he made the biggest gaffe the only gaffe of the campaign, where he said people cling to their guns and they're bitter and their religion, right? The fact that this is where McCain made his last stand. This was his Alamo, and the same sort of bloody results that the Texans found. I did learn this today when Barack played Senator Obama played his traditional good luck basketball game. One of the people playing with him, a former power forward from Scranton Prep class of 1978, Bob Casey, the senator from Pennsylvania who endorsed Obama early and played a big role in Obama carrying the state today.
I'm told we have a projection to make that no doubt we're going to want to talk about in a moment. Wolf?
We project right now there will be a new senator from the state of North Carolina, and that would be Kay Hagan defeating Elizabeth Dole, the incumbent Republican. This has been a fiercely fought battle in North Carolina, but Kay Hagan, a longtime Democratic legislator in the state of North Carolina, going forward and defeating Elizabeth Dole, a former cabinet secretary, the wife of Bob Dole, John King and Campbell. You're there. A huge, huge loss for the Republicans, another Democratic pickup in the U.S. Senate.
And you said it. Well, this was a race that got very ugly at the end, especially Elizabeth Dole running an ad against Kay Hagan, accusing her of godlessness. Lawsuits were filed, but here it looks like it wasn't even close, at least toward the end.
A pickup for the Democrats in a state that, remember, John Edwards was the Democratic vice presidential nominee 4 years ago. He couldn't win his own Senate seat here. He left the Senate because he couldn't keep his own seat there. The Democrats are picking up this seat. This seat before Elizabeth Dole was held by Jesse Helms. This seat is now in Democratic hands, and we'll go back to Wolf, but if you look at these blue counties, she is even outperforming Barack Obama. Kay Hagan is in some of these key counties. She's running a very strong race tonight, Wolf.
Guys, thanks very much. 5 minutes and 20 seconds to go till the top of the hour. More states are closing, 15 states with a total of 159 electoral votes. We will have projections after this. CNN is ready to make another projection right now. In the state of Alabama, we project that John McCain will carry Alabama. They closed almost an hour or so ago. Only 1% of the vote is actually in. Obama's slightly ahead right now, but that's only 1% very early. But based on a lot of information that we're getting right now, including the exit polls, Alabama and its 9 electoral votes will go for John McCain. That's something that was fully expected, by the way. That's not a huge surprise. We're going to be making some more projections right at the top of the hour because at the top of the hour, 15 states will be closing, including, they have 159 electoral votes. You can see in a minute from now, they'll be closing in Arizona, Colorado, Kansas, Louisiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Nebraska, New Mexico, New York State, North Dakota, Rhode Island, South Dakota, Texas, the second largest state, Wisconsin, and Wyoming, all of these states. And we're going to watch very closely to see what happens in these states because some of these states could be indicative of a trend that could be emerging in the course of this night. I'm especially interested in finding out what's going on in a state, for example, like Minnesota, which has sort of been up for grabs over these past several weeks. And we'll watch that as well, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and a few others. Some of these states are not expected to be any great surprise. As we watch what's going on, we want to remind our viewers that this is a state's Congress, the House, and the Senate. Let's pause. And with the polls closed in these states right now, we can make these projections. Barack Obama will carry these 5 states. Rhode Island, Barack Obama wins, will take the 4 electoral votes. That's not a surprise. Michigan, McCain basically gave up there a few weeks ago. Michigan, 17 electoral votes for Obama. Same for Wisconsin, and it's 10 electoral votes. Wisconsin will go for Obama. So will Minnesota, and it's 10 electoral votes for Obama. And New York State, 31 electoral votes. Not a surprise, but that's a bonanza of electoral votes going for Barack Obama. John McCain will carry Wyoming, and it's 3 electoral votes. That was expected in North Dakota, and it's 3 electoral votes. That will go for John McCain as well. We are in no position right now to make projections in these battleground states, including John McCain's home state of Arizona. We don't have enough information for Arizona and Colorado, Kansas, and Louisiana, as well as no projections for Nebraska, New Mexico, South Dakota, and even Texas, although that doesn't indicate that just because we're not able to make a projection that it's going to be close. It only indicates that we don't have enough information right now. But based on the projections that CNN has already put forward over the course of the past couple hours, right now, Barack Obama has a steady lead of 174 electoral votes. Those are the blue states that you see. 49 electoral votes for John McCain. Those are the red states that you see. The yellow states are where the polls have closed in those states, but we have not yet been able to make a projection. The other gray states out there are states that haven't seen their polls close yet. Let's go to voter analysis. Soledad O'Brien and Bill Schneider can explain better, based on exit poll numbers, what's going on. Soledad?
Yeah, we were really interested in drilling down on some of those issues we talked a lot about, certainly over the last 18-plus months. That would be race and age. So let's take a quick look at the demographic of, did race play a role in this race, if you will?
Very important. Let's take a look at those voters who said the race of the candidates was an important factor in the way I voted. Now, that was about 20% of the voters. And how did they vote in the country as a whole? They voted 55 to 44 for Barack Obama, which suggests that race was an important factor to them, but when it was important, they were more likely to vote for Obama than for McCain. A lot of people voted for Obama because of his race, blacks and whites, as well as those who voted against him.
Now, in the exit poll, you asked exactly the flip of that question. Race was not a factor.
Right. Let's compare that with those who say the race of the candidates was not an important factor. They voted almost the same way. Whether you thought race was important or race was not important, Obama won the vote, which suggests that race was not a decisive factor in the outcome of this election.
What about age as a factor?
Age. Now, there is a very interesting contrast. Let's look at those voters who said the age of the candidates was an important factor in my vote. In the country as a whole, whoops. Oh, it's not working.
A little higher. Let's try it again.
Among those who said the age was important, look at that. 78% for Barack Obama, only 21% for John McCain. McCain did win among those who said age was not important. Twice as many voters said age was important than said race was important.
Absolutely fascinating, considering how much we've talked about race in this race. Wolf?
Soledad, Bill, thanks very much. We're watching all of this. Let me just update our viewers once again on the projections that we've made. You see this map of the United States. 174 electoral votes we've projected going for Barack Obama, 49 going for Senator McCain. Remember, keep in mind, the magic number you need to be elected president of the United States is 270. 270 electoral votes. All right, we're ready to make another projection. Two more projections right now. Two more pickups for the Democrats. In New Mexico, Tom Udall, the Democrat, will be elected the next senator from New Mexico. And in New Hampshire, in a fiercely fought battle, Jeanne Shaheen, the former Democratic governor of New Hampshire, she manages to beat John Sununu, the incumbent Republican. That's a pickup. Two more pickups. By my count so far, we've projected 4 more pickups for the Democrats. They had a 61 majority, considering the 2 independents in the Senate, Bernie Sanders and Joe Lieberman, vote by and large with the Democrats. These 4 more pickups that we've projected so far, that would bring that 61 up to 65, and that's getting 51 up to 55, getting very close to that 60 filibuster-proof majority that the Democrats would certainly love to have. But Jeanne Shaheen, we've projected, will be the next United States Senator from New Hampshire, and Tom Udall will be the next United States Senator from New Mexico. His cousin, Mark Udall, is running in Colorado. We'll see how he's doing, but that's a pickup for the Democrats in both New Mexico and in New Hampshire. Anderson, so far, things are going pretty well for these Democrats.
It certainly is. The big question still, I guess, Louisiana is perhaps the Republicans' best chance for a pickup. Senator Mary Landrieu has really been targeted by John Kennedy.
Yeah, there's a chance, but it's very interesting. It's a big night for the Democrats. I would comment on what Bill said, there's been so much ink spilled. To the credit, and many speeches given, no speeches and ink spilled by Barack Obama on this. Some Bradley effect, huh? The country's grown up. Let's just accept that. And if Barack Obama is the President of the United States, we can't put our history behind us. But I think we can put some questions behind us, like what's possible in America.
Well, I mean, if he does become president, and it still is an if, does anyone know what this means in terms of change of race relations in the United States, or a perception of?
Well, I'll tell you one thing it means. As a former Secretary of Education, you don't take any excuses anymore from anybody who says the deck is stacked, I can't do anything, there's so much inbuilt this and that. There are always problems in a big society. But we have just, if this turns out to be the case, President Obama, we have just achieved an incredible milestone for which the world needs to have more respect for the United States than it sometimes does.
Well, the world, I think, is a very significant observation.
Yes,
the effect of an Obama victory, if it happens, on the international reputation of the United States will be so profound and so immediate that I don't think there is anything comparable in American history in terms of an immediate change in public perception.
Winning World War II, maybe.
Well,
that was not so instant.
Not so instant.
I think it changes the way we look at our own country, and we look at it, and you look at this country, which has an amazing ability to self-correct after it makes mistakes.
Absolutely.
Selma 4 decades ago, we could be looking at the first African American president. We don't know yet, but we could.
I think if it's an Obama victory and it's as big as it looks it might be, that's going to be a huge milestone. I don't think we have taken care of the issue of racial prejudice. What's been apparent in this election, I think what Bill Bennett is absolutely right about, is it appears that a lot of people worked through their racial issues and came to a conclusion, I'll take him anyway. And that's real progress. That's real progress. But we need a little more information now about how the white vote breaks out before we break out champagne on this question.
Well, we also need to actually declare somebody a victor in this case. We have not at this point. There's still a lot more to talk about, though. This race, I mean, Alex, as a Republican, are you holding on to hope for Louisiana, a possible pickup in a Senate race? Is that what's keeping you from drinking right now?
James is so confident he's just spotted me 4 additional points in Louisiana. So, and I'll take him. It's his home state. No, I think that could be a pickup there. The composition of that state has changed. It's a question how big the black vote will be down there. But it is a right track state. It's got government money in there from Katrina. It's got oil money. And they've run a pretty good campaign. The other state to watch, I think, is going to be Minnesota and Coleman. Their tracking had Coleman up 4 points going into this election.
Norm Coleman against Al Franken, a Democrat, but there's also an independent candidate.
And look, if Republicans can't beat a lunatic like Al Franken, we're in bad shape even this year. I think that's what a lot of Republicans would say. I'm one of them. But anyway, the question is, there's a third party there, a guy taking equally from Republicans and from Democrats. So it may be that election turns out exactly what it is on the last survey.
James, do you think the independent candidate in Minnesota takes equally away from both candidates?
I think most people think up to a point that he takes away from Coleman, but if he exceeds that point, I don't know if it's 15 points or so, then he starts to take away some from Franken. I do think Paul and I have been going back and forth on the Florida thing. It appears to us, looking at actual results, talking to actual political professionals, that it's highly likely that Senator Obama is going to carry Florida, based on looking at results. If you look at Orange County, Pasco County, you look at what's happening in a lot of other places. And I think that Louisiana, some good things are happening, but not exactly a right track. Virginia, I'm looking at actual results.
We have not called Florida.
I know CNN has not called Florida. Paul, this is a renegade operation.
You guys have gone rogue.
We've gone rogue.
You guys are mavericks. I'm telling you, you're both mavericks. You're a pair of mavericks.
But Obama's looking a little stronger than some Republicans suspected in Florida, and McCain is looking a little stronger than some Democrats had hoped in Virginia.
I wouldn't go that close. There's just a lot out in Virginia. There's a lot of Virginia Beach is a lot out. Fairfax County a lot out.
William County is another big one to look at in Virginia, and I think that Republicans are kind of looking for these small victories right now in some of these states, Ohio, Virginia.
But Tara, I mean, do you at this point see a path forward for John McCain?
It's very difficult, obviously, at this point. But again, looking at these small victories, even the governorships like Mitch Daniels in Indiana, where it was one of the races that was in question for a governorship. But I think that, again, Republicans will look at these small victories, hopefully, in states like Ohio, Virginia, Missouri, St. Louis County. So I think as the night goes on, we'll see. But it is obviously, it's not looking very good for the McCain campaign.
Coming back to Florida, Bill Clinton carries it in 1996. Al Gore, I still believe, narrowly carries it in 2000, and it was a big mess in a recount. John Kerry lost it by a significant margin, you know, too close to, by too much to even consider it, you know, stolen or anything silly. But now, if this thing, the early returns from places like Orange County, where John King, you know, drew those two red lines across the I-4 corridor, that's remarkable. This is now McCain's last chance in the eastern coast, right? If he loses Florida, it would be, as my son Billy says, peace out, Cub Scout. That's it for McCain if he loses Florida.
More than most states, an elderly population,
That's right,
really hurt by an economic meltdown. You know, these folks are living no margin for error lives. You know, every dollar in their budget is committed, and when an economic meltdown, something like that happens, they're rocked. So it's not just, you know, you can blame the McCain campaign, but when you have an economic meltdown
do you think
in Florida,
it was just the economic meltdown, or do you think the Clintons helped, Joe Biden helped? What do you think?
Well, I think both. And I think, you know, basically what helped is that the Republican brand is held in as low as esteem as any political party in the history of modern polling. I think that, I mean, that's a very obvious thing that's going on in this country. By the way, in terms of young voters are going to break for Senator Obama by probably 65-35.
That's probably been the key, is the younger voters.
Let's just pause for that.
CNN now projects that the state of Georgia will go for John McCain. 15 electoral votes in Georgia. John McCain, the winner, with 36% of the actual vote now in. John McCain has 61% to 38% for Senator Obama. He's ahead by 241,000 down to 38,000 right now. We're doing the math for you. 38% now the precincts have reported. But Georgia, which was a sort of a long shot for the Democrats. They had some hopes in Georgia. They thought maybe a huge African-American turnout could get them the state, but it was always a major challenge for Senator Obama in Georgia. They did make an effort there, but in the end, we now project that Georgia will be going for Senator John McCain. It's another win for him. Take a look. Let me walk through and show you what we have in these votes that are coming in. These are actual votes, with 3% of the vote now counted in Missouri. 56% for McCain, 43% for Obama, but it's very early. In Texas, only 3% also have been counted. 52% for McCain, 48% for Obama. In Ohio, that's a key battleground state. 8% of the vote in Ohio is now in. No Republican has ever won the White House without Ohio. Obama is ahead right now, 57% to 42%. He's up by almost 200,000 votes in Ohio, but only 8% has been counted so far. And in Florida, almost half of the precincts have now reported in Florida. 52% for Obama, 48% for McCain, almost a 200,000 margin for Barack Obama in Florida. That's a huge prize. 27 electoral votes. A lot of people do not see how John McCain can be elected without Florida, but we're watching it. We're watching the votes coming in. Almost half of the precincts there have been counted. CNN.com. Go there. There's a lot of information you can get on your most important races, on the presidential race, the Senate, the House, the governor's races. CNN.com. That's where you can go. Our coverage continues right after this. Jeanne Shaheen,
I want to thank, and all of New Hampshire should thank John Sununu for his 12 years of service in Washington. I also, thank you, yes.
Jeanne Shaheen, the former Democratic governor of New Hampshire, congratulating herself, in effect, for winning this New Hampshire Democratic, the Senate seat in New Hampshire. That's a pickup for the Democrats. She defeated, according to our projection, the incumbent Republican John Sununu. She thanked him for his service, and now she will go forward and eventually be sworn in as the next United States Senator from New Hampshire. And that's the fourth Democratic pickup. It brings their numbers now up to 55. 55 Democrats and 2 independents who vote with the Democrats in the U.S. Senate. We're watching all of these races very closely. And here's another one, a major win for the Republicans this time. In the state of Kentucky, the incumbent Republican Mitch McConnell, the minority leader in the U.S. Senate, we project he will defeat Bruce Lunsford and get reelected in the United States Senate. Right now, with 65% of the precincts reporting, he's slightly ahead, 51% to 49%. That's 23,517 advantage for Mitch McConnell. But based on the exit polls, based on other information that's coming in, where this vote, the actual vote, is coming in, we are now ready to project that Mitch McConnell has been re-elected in Kentucky. He was in a fierce battle for his political life. Bruce Lunsford put on a very strong challenge, but in the end, Mitch McConnell will go forward and carry his own state. That's the same state, Kentucky, by the way, Anderson, that John McCain, we've projected, will go with, will carry Kentucky as well. So that's an important win for the Republicans. Would have been very embarrassing for them if their leader in the Senate would have gone down, just as it was very embarrassing for the Democrats when Tom Daschle, who was then the Democratic leader in the Senate, when he was defeated in his bid for re-election.
It would have been a tough loss to them, but it is not a loss. It's in the win column for the Republicans, something to, I guess, hold on to tonight.
Yeah, well, I think it was Jeff was saying he's a tough guy. He is a tough guy, but when the going gets tough, you know, it's going to be even tougher for him. That was an essential win. We had to win that one. But he is to think about it as the Senate minority leader, what he could be facing here with an all-Democrat, possibility of an all-Democrat government.
Although we may not know, I mean, depending on what happens in some of these races in Georgia, we may not know if there's a runoff until December 2nd.
Right.
That's right.
We may not. I think the one thing that's the question that's starting to come up is, Obama looks like he's heading toward it. He's doing very, very well. Does he have coattails? Is he bringing people with him? So far, the indication on the Senate is that he's not, he's not winning a couple of these close races. Certainly, they haven't won in Georgia, and they didn't win in Kentucky. But we don't know any House races yet. So I think, you know, over the next 2 or 3 hours, one of the questions we're going to be asking is how much is coming with it.
And the coattails is important, what, to be able, in terms of governing, in terms of influence?
It's extreme. Go back to your question of earlier today. Right. What does it mean for leadership? It's extremely important. Reagan was the last president who brought a lot of people with him. And it made a big difference in his first 2 years, as Bill will remember, and how successful he was legislatively.
It was interesting. I think it was you made the point a couple nights ago that when you heard John McCain making speeches, he often wasn't thanking the local politicians, the local representative who was also running, whereas Barack Obama always was trying to embrace them. And you wonder if, I think you raised the question is, did they not want to be close to John McCain?
That's an interesting question. It did seem to be that the Senate candidates for the Republicans were running largely independently of John McCain and George W. Bush.
So had McCain won, would he have had coattails? And if he does win,
there's no evidence of that.
You have in Oregon, Gordon Smith, the incumbent Republican, running ads with Obama in the ads, even though Obama has supported his opponent Merkley. I mean, it is just the opposite of embracing John McCain. I mean, these politicians read the polls, too. They knew which way things were heading, and they have acted accordingly.
Bill Clinton suffered because he didn't have any coattails, because he won with 43% of the vote, and everybody else in Congress ran ahead of him. And so they didn't owe him anything. If Obama were to win and he were to bring in a lot of people, particularly folks in the South, conservative Democrats, they would owe him. Conservative Blue Dog Democrats would owe him, and they, you know, he might be able to cut a path there for some reconciliation between right and left and get something done.
Well, I think the bottom line is there's still a lot we don't know yet about the outcome of this and what it looks like. And one of the questions is it going to, are there going to be coattails? Another question is going to be, can Obama win a couple of these southern states? We still haven't heard North Carolina, Virginia. Those are still outstanding. He still has a real chance to win those things, so that would be huge.
We have another projection to make. Let's pause for that.
CNN now projects that West Virginia will go for Senator McCain. 5 electoral votes in West Virginia. 22% of the vote has actually been counted in West Virginia. 53% so far for McCain, 46% for Barack Obama, 11,240. That's the advantage he has. But based on our exit polls, based on the actual numbers that are coming in, where they're coming in from that state, it's another win for Senator McCain. The 5 electoral votes from West Virginia going for Senator McCain. Senator McCain, however, is not doing well in several other states, and a big loss for him. Earlier tonight, we projected Pennsylvania going for Senator Obama. That's a major setback. I want to go out to Senator McCain's headquarters right now, at least on this night. Hank Williams is performing at the Biltmore Hotel in Phoenix. Eventually, Senator McCain's going to be there. Let's listen in briefly to Hank Williams.
Pretty, it didn't take me long to learn that I was born to boogie. When I was 18, I went to Hollywood. I met Elvis and Marilyn and Johnny B. Good. I got the Guitar Tech, California sun, red Cadillac, having too much fun.
All right, there's Hank Williams. We're getting close, very, very close to a major projection, so stand by. We'll take a quick break. CNN.com. You want to go check all the numbers there, a lot of other information. Stand by for a commercial break, and then I think we might have a big projection coming up. We'll be right back.
Make a movie star too. I told him mama didn't raise no fool. I don't want your money and I don't want no movies. I can tell you I was born to boogie.
Welcome back. We're watching all these states. They're very close in several of these states. Yeah. Anderson, we're going to show our viewers what's going on. But we're moving along, and we're getting ready for some more projections.
Important races in Ohio, Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, all we are following very, very closely right now.
Let me walk over and update our viewers on what we know right now. These are real votes. 70% of the precincts in Virginia, that's a lot. They've already reported their numbers, and look at how close it is. Wow. 50% for McCain, 49% for Senator Obama. That's only a difference of about 15,800. Now it's smaller, 12,519 for McCain. 71% of the precincts in Virginia have reported. Almost half of the precincts in North Carolina have reported. Look at how close it is here in North Carolina. 51% for Senator Obama, 48% for Senator McCain, and that's about an 80,000 advantage for Senator Obama. North Carolina closed at 7:30. We're watching that. Florida, another incredibly close state right now. 55% of the precincts have reported. 51% for Barack Obama, 48% for John McCain. That's not much of a difference, only 170,588 votes in Florida. That's a big prize, 27 electoral votes. And in Ohio, 15% of the precincts have reported. 56% so far for Senator Obama, 43% for Senator McCain. That's a lead of almost 200,000 for Senator Obama in Ohio. Campbell and John, Ohio, I don't think we can stress how important it is, and we're watching the state very closely.
No Republican has ever won the presidency without Ohio, Wolf. And I know, as Wolf said, only 15% reporting right now, but still give us a sense for what's happening there, John.
This is a good mix. This is a true battleground state, and you see it in the numbers. Obama's leading right now, but you see the numbers filling it around here. Here's the biggest thing. If you're the Obama campaign, we're only at 15%. And you're saying, wow, this is a tough one for Republicans. One of the things that makes you encouraged at the moment is nothing so far from Cuyahoga County, which is Cleveland. Not only is it an African-American population, a big Democratic stronghold, but it's a little more than 12% of the state population. One of the key things to watch is Republicans will be encouraged down here. This is a key area down here because the last time a Democrat won Ohio, it was in 1996. Excuse my reach for coming across. And it was Bill Clinton, and he proved the Democrats could win down here in southeast Ohio. So McCain has to be encouraged by that at the moment. But in the population centers, Campbell, when you come in Franklin County, in the center of the state, the capital of Columbus, Barack Obama putting up 60 to 40 right there. And again, let's go back in time. All night long we've been talking about the margins then and now. Let's just go back in time and look. 4 years ago, much closer, within 10 points there. So John McCain underperforming George W. Bush in that county as we continue to watch Ohio. I want to shrink down the state and a couple other places to watch. Obviously, we're waiting for the vote up here. This is a blue-collar vote area in here. And if you go back to the Democratic primaries, this is an area where Hillary Clinton swept Ohio. Right. And so Barack Obama at the moment, in the few counties we see so far, seems to be doing well in those blue-collar areas where Hillary Clinton hurt him so badly and where the McCain people hoped to pick up those blue-collar voters. So a long way to go in Ohio. Let's come back out of Franklin County to the statewide. Only 15%. A long way to go. This is a place where there have been some hemming and hawing over long lines and ballot access and the like, so we'll let the numbers come in. But so far, for the Democrat to be ahead in the early count is something we haven't seen in a while.
Let's go to Pennsylvania. I know as we wait on these numbers to come in, but the economy, huge issue in Ohio, very similar in Pennsylvania. We've called Pennsylvania for Obama now, but we talked about it to death beforehand. Walk us through what happened.
And another very key point, if you look so far, 26% of the state in, Barack Obama with a sizable lead, 2-1, 66% to 33%. What's missing? What's missing from this map is any red at the moment. Some of this out in the center when the results come in. I'm just going to hit one center county, only 4%. I think you could bet, and you can bet by the end of the night, this is blue because the state is blue. By the end of the night, a lot of this will fill in red. But here's the key thing. Remember after the primaries, everybody said, can Barack Obama win down here?
Right.
Why do I raise the question? Because let's go back and look at the Democratic primaries. Scranton, Allentown, Bethlehem, Reading, blue collar, the old steel industry right in here. Hillary Clinton trounced Barack Obama here. This is where McCain said, we're going to find Democrats, Hillary Clinton voters, and we're going to get them to vote for us. But if you come forward to where we are now, and you look at the race now, results still coming in, only 26%. But you go into these counties, 55 to 44. That's fine for Barack Obama. In Allentown, 60 to 40. He is proving in the end that he could deliver the blue-collar votes he lost in the primary. One more quick footnote. I talked at length to Senator Bob Casey, a big Obama supporter in Pennsylvania last night. He said if he was worried about anything, it was over here. Allegheny County and in southwest Pennsylvania, 61 to 38. Those worries obviously overstated. 54% of the vote coming in here. If these numbers... That's why we called the state, Campbell. I want to show something real quick. Now, we'll see that some of this will fill in red. This is probably not fair to the McCain campaign, but look at all this blue now. George Bush narrowly lost the state 4 years ago.
Right.
That was all red. Barack Obama is overperforming John Kerry almost everywhere we look, and John McCain is underperforming George Bush almost everywhere we look.
All right. Very big projection we are just hearing now. Let's go right back to Wolf. Wolf.
Ohio. CNN now projects the state of Ohio will go for Senator Barack Obama. Look at this. 20 electoral votes. Barack Obama desperately was anxious for Ohio. And as we say, we've said it many, many times, no Republican has ever been elected to the White House without Ohio. And now this Democratic presidential candidate will carry the state of Ohio. That's a huge, huge win, like Pennsylvania. But even more important, because Pennsylvania has gone Democratic in recent contests, including 4 years ago and 8 years ago, despite Republican wins. Ohio, much more important for Barack Obama right now, with 16% of the actual vote now in. Obama, 55%. McCain, 43%. 55-44, it's just changed. Almost 200,000 advantage with 16% of the win in, but it's a huge, huge win. Suzanne Malveaux is over in Chicago at Grant Park. They must be, they're just going to be getting word, Suzanne, about Ohio, but you know how many times you and Senator Obama visited Ohio, and it's clearly paid off.
It was a critical battleground state for Barack Obama. You can imagine people very excited about learning this news. There has been no Republican who captured the White House without getting Ohio, and that is why there were so many trips that we took time and time again with Obama, going to those areas, trying to win over those critical working class voters, as you had said and noted before. Hillary Clinton very much doing well in that state. Well, Barack Obama clearly making some inroads there. Want to give you a sense of what we're looking at here. Thousands of people who've gathered here at Grant Park waiting for Barack Obama. He and Michelle, as well as the family, have been watching the results come in. They are very excited. They are very encouraged by this. You have media from around the world that are paying attention to this moment. Thousands of people here who are anticipating an Obama win. Clearly, the race is not yet over, but there is a lot of anticipation, a lot of excitement that it is going clearly in his way. We expect Barack Obama to be here later in the evening. He will deliver a very significant speech, as you can imagine, Wolf, at a podium in front of 25 American flags with unprecedented security and thousands of people here, Wolf, waiting for his arrival, and they anticipate his victory.
All right, Suzanne, thanks very much. Candy Crowley's also been covering the Obama campaign. She's also in Chicago right now. This win in Ohio, Candy, how big of a deal? Give us some perspective, and you understand this as well as anyone. How big of a deal is this for Senator Obama?
Well, it's a big deal for Senator Obama, but remember, this is a campaign that saw several routes to victory. They saw several ways to add up to that 270 electoral votes. So while this is a big win for him, it is probably a bigger loss for John McCain at this point. Certainly, Ohio makes that 270 a lot easier for Barack Obama, but it makes it much, much harder for John McCain, Wolf.
And let's go to John McCain's headquarters out in Phoenix, Arizona right now. Dana Bash is there. Dana, this is obviously very disappointing news for Senator McCain. Pennsylvania first, now Ohio, and like Candy and Suzanne, you travel to those states a lot.
A lot, and you know, it is absolutely crushing for John McCain, this news. I got to tell you, in following John McCain throughout Ohio, last week in particular, we spent 2 whole days there riding a bus through pretty much all of the state. At every single stop, Wolf, he would tell people, I know my history. And the history is that no Republican has ever won the White House without winning this state. He knows what this means historically, and given the way the other states have gone, that this is very, very tough for him. So there's no question that realism has, we talked about realism before, now reality really is setting in inside the McCain campaign. You know, McCain is actually on his way here, Wolf, but I can tell you, I spoke to a source who was with him in his residence here in Phoenix earlier, and as you can imagine, in talking to the source, the mood was not very good. They were still holding out hope at that point that Ohio was potentially going to go their way. They were still looking at other states that have not been projected, like North Carolina, but the mood was not very good, even though he does have his good friends around, like Senator Lindsey Graham, Senator Joe Lieberman, to keep him, to try to keep him upbeat. Wolf.
Dana, do the folks in that room at the Biltmore Hotel in Phoenix where you are, do they know about these projections that we're making?
You know, they don't. This has been a fascinating dynamic here at the Biltmore. You can see that the music is playing behind me. Hank Williams Jr. has been playing. They have turned off the news. They are not getting this information. Earlier in the evening, when we were projecting, and other networks were projecting the very red states that were going for John McCain, they did put it up, and there were lots of cheers. But since this news has broken about Ohio, Pennsylvania before that, it has not been announced here at all. There's a very solemn feeling here. Nobody is, it's really in the dark. Everybody knows what's going on. They all have their Blackberries. They all have information, but they are making a point of not putting that information, that bad news, up on the screen here.
All right, well, we just saw you going up on the screen behind you. As you were saying what you were saying, you're up there on the screen, Dana. Thanks very much for that. We're going to get back to you. I want to go over to Campbell and John right now. You know, it's a steep climb that John McCain has right now, Campbell, because if you look at the math, not looking very promising for him.
I know, Wolf, and I know we're not calling the race yet, but let's have a reality check here, John. I mean, show me McCain's path to victory without Ohio.
Okay, it's very hard. I don't mean to be mean, but this is very bleak at this moment in time because you know Abraham Lincoln did it. There was one Republican, but not in modern times as a Republican won the White House without Ohio. I'm going to leave these states alone at the moment. Although I will say this: I think we haven't called it yet. I don't believe, but let's give John McCain West Virginia. Okay, I think that's a safe bet. I'm going to leave these for now, and I'm going to leave Florida for now because we haven't gone there. Let's come down. Mississippi, okay, I think that we could say. Louisiana, we can give him that, but look how small we're talking about here. Arkansas, 6 electoral votes. So we're giving him these states. We're going to give him a lot of states as we go across here, but they're relatively small states. Kansas will go Republican. Nebraska, we believe will go Republican. South Dakota, we believe will go Republican. I'm going to skip Montana for now because that one is a horse race. The governor out there thinks he can win it for Barack Obama and help. We'll give Idaho to the Republicans. I'm not going to go on the West Coast because Washington State, Oregon, and California are not going to go Republican. I'm willing to bet my life on that one. We'll come down here. Utah will go Republican. We will assume that John McCain will hold his home state of Arizona, and we assume they will win Sarah Palin's state of Alaska, which we have down there, and of course they will win the state of Texas, and that's the big one left on the board for the Republicans at 34. Now I have John McCain up to 160. Right. He's still trailing Barack Obama after I gave him all of that. To get to victory, Campbell, he has to be just about perfect the rest of the way through. He has to win Colorado, where he has trailed in the polls. We already know that Democrats took the Senate race there. This is a hypothetical. I'll give it to him. I would not bet a lot on that in Camp McCain. Latinos will make up more than 35% of the voting population here. In other states, we know they're voting more than 2-to-1 against John McCain. I'm going to give it to him in this scenario. I would not bet more than a dime on that. And then we come out here, and Iowa is a state that
he's been running way behind in the
way
polls.
Behind. This is close. This is close right now. We're watching this one very closely. He has to win it. Just has to win it. Let's do Indiana. has to win it. Again, that's very tight right now. I looked at it a little while ago, and I think Obama was coming back, and it looked pretty good for Obama. So here we go. If we do all that, which is a big hypothetical, now we've got him tied with where we have Obama. What does he do to win? Well, let's say he wins Virginia. Let's say. We don't know that. Let's say he pulls out North Carolina. And let's say he pulls out the state of Florida. I got him to 250 by giving him all that. For the sake of argument, we'll give him Montana. Again, Latino vote here. It's a tough one for the Republicans, but for the sake of argument, let's give him that. I can get him to 259. I'm going to tell you right now, Campbell, I cannot see John McCain winning Iowa, winning Hawaii, or winning any of these. So I can't get him to 270. Even if there's a miracle, here, and that goes Republican, we get him to 266. Now, we're going to watch these results come in, and please, God bless you, if you are out here, vote. Vote. Vote.
It is
but
not
it is
over
very
yet.
difficult. It's absolutely not over, and this has been a strange year, and strange things can happen. But I just gave John McCain a bunch of states where he's trailing right now, a bunch of states that are good Republican states. It is very hard for me, with any credibility, to suggest John McCain is going to win California, Oregon, or Washington. And so even if he sweeps what's left on the board, that's as far as he gets, and that's not enough.
And I think that was pretty well reflected in what we saw with Dana at the McCain headquarters event tonight, and with Suzanne Malveaux and Candy out in Chicago. Wolf?
All right, guys, thanks very much. I want to show our viewers what we have projected so far on this map of the United States. 194 electoral votes. So far, we've projected for Senator Obama. 69 electoral votes we've projected so far for Senator McCain. Senator McCain, the red states, you see them there. Senator Obama, the blue states, you see them there. The yellow states, these are states where the polls in those states have closed, but we have not yet been able to make a projection in those states. These other states, these white states out here, they have not yet closed the polls in those states, although at the top of the hour at 10 p.m. Eastern, they're going to be closing more of those states. We're going to have a lot more of our coverage. Remember, if you want to be John King, you can do it. You can go to CNN.com and play around. See if you can come up with a formula that would bring Senator McCain to 270. The needed number to be elected president of the United States. You can go to CNN.com and figure it out if possible. Stay with us. Our coverage continues after this. Two more projections coming in to the CNN Election Center right now. New Mexico, 5 electoral votes. We project Barack Obama will carry New Mexico. He worked hard there. So did Senator McCain, but New Mexico will go for Barack Obama. Louisiana, we project will go for Senator McCain. Those 9 electoral votes in Louisiana will go for Senator McCain. 13% of the precincts have now reported in Louisiana based on the actual numbers as well as the exit polls. We say Louisiana, it's 9 electoral votes will go for Senator McCain. Let's take a look at if you look at the race to 270 right now, 199 for Obama, 78 for Senator McCain, 270 the magic number. The blue states, the Democratic candidate, the red states, the Republican candidate. The yellow states, those are states where the polls have closed, but we are not yet able to make a projection. The white states, still those polls haven't closed there yet. The popular vote right now, look at how close it is, with about a quarter of the vote now in. Look at this. 49% for McCain, 50% for Senator Obama. Almost 40 million votes are now have now been counted, and there's only a difference, an advantage for Senator Obama of 320,000 votes. Wow! Look at how close that is, that popular vote right now, with only with some 23% of the vote actually tallied. It's very, very close. Close in the popular vote, Anderson. Not so close, at least not now, in that electoral vote, which is clearly all important. The popular vote is nice, but it's the electoral vote that makes the difference.
And Obama is racing toward 270 right now. We calculate he has 199. John McCain has 78. But it is fascinating when you see with the popular vote just how close it is, with so much of the country already voted, although we don't have the results from California, which obviously is a massive state.
Right. You know, and the thing that in looking at what happened in Ohio, which of course was such a key state for a Republican to win the presidential, to win the presidency, the economy. Throughout all of these states, we see 90% of the people in Ohio said the economy was their chief issue. 82% disapproved of the war in Iraq, and 54% of those who voted for Obama said that he was going to be, that McCain was tied to Bush and that would just continue Bush's policies. And I think as we look at the exit polls throughout all of these states, Anderson, we're going to see that pattern time and time again.
I also found it interesting in Ohio, if you look at the exit polls, when they ask which quality matters most in a candidate's experience, caring about you, the quality that most people said, the plurality said, was, will bring change. Obama won that group 92-5. 92-5. McCain simply could not sustain the argument that he would represent change. He was too closely tied to George W. Bush.
And Barack Obama identified the word change, identified that as a mantra so long ago, and was so prescient in doing so.
Exactly, and he used it against both Hillary Clinton and John McCain.
Right. She tried to use experience, then she tried to adapt of you know, for real change you need experience, but no one could really take the change mantle away from Barack Obama.
It also means he's got to deliver change.
Right.
It also puts a lot of pressure on him.
But McCain did exactly what Hillary Clinton did. Yeah. He started out with experience, then became the change candidate, and then tried to be the experienced candidate who would bring you change. It was the Hillary Clinton campaign, and that didn't work for Hillary Clinton.
Well, when you list all the boulders in the path on the way to the summit, if Barack Obama wins, that John McCain was facing, and some of this has been written up already, I think people are going to say it's quite extraordinary that he was anywhere close to these kinds of numbers. I mean, this is almost a perfect storm for Barack Obama and a perfect storm against John McCain. But again, it's too early to say that.
But unprecedented amounts of money on the side of Barack Obama, the economic issues.
Not just the economic issue. I mean, it was a fairly close race before September 15th. Coming in early September, after the Republican convention, it was even. Maybe McCain was a little ahead. Then comes the economic cataclysm. But some of the other things that Gloria has cited. Plus, you know, there is.
I add in Sarah Palin into that for independent voters.
Well, but that we'll debate that.
We'll be debating that. We got 6 hours, so believe me, we'll be.
Thankfully, the subject hadn't yet come up tonight. But that's right.
I must say, Gloria, every hour has been saying to me, "Have we talked about Palin yet?"
Anyway, but there's also the two terms. George Bush is unpopular, but this country likes to change leaders. It likes to, it says, give the other guys a chance. And this time they were really mad at the guy in the White House, and there were some very rough things happening in the country.
We got some more poll closings, some more projections. We want to take a quick break. We'll have a lot more ahead. Stay tuned.
All right, in a few minutes, 4 more states will be closing. 20 electoral votes at stake: Iowa, Utah, Montana, and Nevada. We're watching that, and I think we're going to have some projections.
It's been a very exciting night. There's still a lot to go. I want to talk more with our panel back here. We were talking about it a little bit during the break, David Gergen. When you see the two campaign events that we were watching, the Grant Park event that the Obama campaign has in Chicago, and you have the McCain campaign event at the Arizona Biltmore, and you see them side by side as we're about to show our viewers, it tells a story about this campaign. It tells a story about what has been happening out there.
It is. Symbolically, I think it sort of captures the story, because one has this solemn mood. In fact, we saw what almost seemed to be a choir or something out there a little earlier tonight. You know, that it was sort of the final rites or something. Whereas this excitement in Grant Park, which is in itself so symbolic. I mean, Grant Park is where the Democratic Party fell apart in 1968 with the Chicago police. And here now it's a site for a celebration for many Democrats. They'd like to think this is the renewal of the Democratic
Party. If we're able to show those pictures, by the way, it would aid our discussion, but go ahead, Roland.
But also in Chicago, that's where Lollapalooza is held, the music festival. So, you know, when you had these rock stars who had their major concerts, that's the park they held him in. And so he's capturing this whole sentiment. It was also interesting throughout this campaign. Isn't it amazing? When Obama started having...
They're doing a little more.
When Obama started having, they probably heard you saying, like, spice it up, David. When Obama started having, you know, 15, 20,000 people rallies, we were kind of like, oh, okay. Well, at the end of this campaign, I mean, 100,000 in Missouri, then 200,000, you know, total into a couple of cities in Ohio. Just amazing.
How surprised do you think the Obama campaign was early on by I mean, some of their supporters and critics have said that it wasn't just a candidate. They were trying to create a movement. Do you think that they identified that early on as this has the potential to be a movement?
You can't take the romance out of American political life either. I mean, it really is true. These American people like to fall in love a little bit with their candidate. He captured a lot of people's imagination. He really did, young and old, white and black. And that was a kind of magic for him. There's no question about it.
Used the phrase "the real America" to talk about rural America, and I think one of the things we're seeing here is those crowds at the Barack Obama rallies that are racially diverse, that are gender diverse, that are economically diverse. That's the real America.
Well, I read something online, someone saying today that the McCain campaign made the mistake believing that Joe the plumber was America, but that the face of America has changed. Did they not realize that, or is that incorrect?
I think it's a different America that Barack Obama understood. It is the passing of the torch. It is a new electorate. It is a more diverse electorate. It's a younger electorate. And Joe the plumber appealed to a certain part of the electorate that is shrinking, not growing.
And it was insulting by the McCain people to suggest the other parts of America aren't the real America. It was insulting.
Well, we'll see.
I'm sorry, gotta go to Wolf.
We'll see if America's changed. Is it still a center-right country? A lot of people.